Hey guys. This is part 7 of What If Naruto Was in Marvel Universe. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 28. Wish You Were Here. As we're reading these statistics, please know that these are not set in stone and are likely to change by the hour. Christine Everhart stated somberly from behind her anchor's desk. Here in New York City, we have estimated 800 injuries, 81 deaths. London, 407 injuries, 32 deaths. Washington, D.C., 287 injuries, 23 deaths. Hong Kong, estimated 201 injuries, 55 deaths. Moscow, 98 injuries, 7 deaths. Beijing, 167 injuries, 74 deaths. Nairobi, 178 injuries, 49 deaths. Sokovia, they've estimated over 1,000 injuries, with 454 deaths. And finally, in Seoul, South Korea, they've estimated over 4,000 injuries, and 807 deaths. As she listed off the death toll, Christine's voice grew hoarse, clearly fighting back her emotions as she powered through with the broadcast. That puts the total estimated number of casualties at around 7,138. And the total number of fatalities at 1,582. Given that it has only been 5 days since the worldwide bombings, now dubbed May 22nd, we can expect that number to rise in the coming weeks. Of the 1,582 fatalities, significant losses include Sergei Kravinov, notable Russian aristocrat and big game hunter, Chinese General Ho Li, who in 1997 evicted the Ten Rings terrorist cell from their hold on Chinese territories, pushing them into the Middle East, Sir Jim Jaspers of the United Kingdom's Parliament, who had famously campaigned for superhuman registration since 1955, something that is now a topic of much debate between members of government around the world. Turning her head as the cameras swapped viewpoints, she continued. And finally, we pay our respects to Clinton Francis Barton, who most know to be the Avenger codenamed Hawkeye. Barton, who was fighting against the terrorist drones dubbed Ultron, was killed in action during the mass explosion. His funeral will be taking place later today in Waverly, Iowa. Several thousand supporters have been reported to be attending. The screen cut to black, forcing Laura Barton to turn her head an inch to see who had turned it off. Seeing Naruto, she forced a smile. I was watching that, she said softly. Frowning, Naruto sat down across from her, setting down the bag and drinks in his hands. I brought some sandwiches. Laura eyed the bag. Thank you, but I'm not hungry. His frown deepened. You need to eat, Laura. I told you, I'm not please. Naruto pleaded. Just eat a few bites for me. Sighing, she slowly reached into the bag. All right. Watching her take a bite, he asked. How are you feeling? With the baby, I mean. He's fine. Laura answered after swallowing. The doctor said everything checks out fine. How much longer? 3 weeks. Reaching into the bag, Naruto pulled out a sandwich for himself. They sat in a strange kind of silence that was only interrupted by the sounds of their eating, the both stewing in the awkward air. Apparently not able to take it for much longer, Laura asked. How are the kids? Finishing his bite, Naruto sighed through his nose before swallowing. They're fine, well as fine as they can be. Cooper hasn't said a word all day, and it took a bit to convince Lila to let me leave to take care of some things. Had to leave a clone, she looked so upset. They're sitting in a room down the hall, watching some cartoon about bears or something. Naruto replied. Naruto had volunteered to babysit the kids over the weekend while Laura prepared the funeral procession, the press, and all the other preparations. Tony had volunteered to pay for everything. Laura had refused. Naruto picked up the tab. Thank you for everything. Laura offered heartfully. I don't know what I'd have done if you and Natasha weren't around. After Laura had heard the news, she practically collapsed from the emotional toll. She'd been placed under medical care for a week so she and the baby could be monitored in case anything happened due to the stress of the loss. Natasha had looked after Cooper and Lila for the week, using it as an excuse to get away from the constant wave of bad news that their lives had become. You don't have to thank us. Naruto returned with a warm smile. It's the least we could do, seriously. Looking to the television, Laura nodded to it. The news has been loving you the past week. The footage of you helping with the cleanup effort went viral and is a major talking point on CNN and Fox News. Everybody's calling you a hero. Not that you weren't one before. I wasn't much of a hero that day, Naruto muttered. Because of me, that monster was able to do all of that. If I'd put that thing with Odin aside, none of this would have happened. If I'd have put the Mind Stone with the other stones on my planet, then Ultron would have never existed. How can I be a hero if I can't prevent stuff like this from happening? If Clint taught me anything, Laura began somberly, it's that a hero isn't always the person who focuses on stopping bad things from happening. A hero is someone who saves lives when it happens. Because in the end you can't always prevent it, all you can do is stop it, and hope that was enough. Naruto shrugged. I guess. The conversation was cut short by a knock on the door. Looking to its direction, Laura called out, "Come in." As the door creaked open, Secretary Ross peeked his head into the room. "Laura?" "Thaddeus," Laura said with a smile, getting up from her chair. As Ross came fully into the room, he smiled down at the pregnant woman as he leaned in for a hug. "Thank you for coming." Releasing her from the hug, Ross spoke. "I figured I'd come a little early, pay my respects before everyone files in." As the two walked further in the room, Naruto raised an eyebrow at the two's seemingly close relationship. "How are the kids?" Ross asked. "The baby? They're as fine as they can be, all things considered," answered Laura. "How's Betty?" "Betty's doing fine, just took a job at General Tektronix Corporation earlier this year," he responded. "She's scheduled to demonstrate a particle accelerator in Queens. I'm sure she'd love it if you dropped by. Maybe another time," she offered, though Naruto could tell she wasn't interested. "If you'd like, I can walk you to the altar to pay your respects." "Actually," Ross started, giving Naruto a quick glance, "if you wouldn't mind, I was wondering if Mr. Uzumaki could escort me? I was hoping to speak with him in private." "Oh, okay," Laura said, surprised. The Secretary of State looked to the blonde. "Well, sure," Naruto said with a shrug. "I'll lead the way." Walking out of the room and through the church's hallway, Ross said, "I'd heard you paid for the services." "Yeah, I had the money from my time in S.H.I.E.L.D., Naruto explained. Turning a corner, he asked, "How do you know Laura?" "I was Barton's commanding officer during the Gulf War," answered the former general. "It was my recommendation that got him into S.H.I.E.L.D. Naruto blinked. "I didn't know that," admitted the blonde. Ross smiled. "I'd be surprised if you had. Barton wasn't one to spill that kind of thing." Opening the doors heading into the church's nave, the two arrived at the altar where the coffin had been placed. The closed wooden casket gleamed in the low church lighting, the faces of the two men in front of it reflecting off the shining oak. Resting a hand on top of the lid, Ross ran it along the smooth surface. "When I'd heard, I couldn't believe it. Barton was one of the best soldiers I'd ever seen. The idea of him dying like that made me sick. He deserved something better than that. All of those poor people did." Naruto nodded, standing a little behind the man as he watched him make a sign of the cross and mutter a quick prayer. Taking his hand off the coffin, Ross turned to Naruto. "You should know that I'm pushing legislation to regulate the activities of enhanced peoples, specifically the Avengers. Barton is gone, Banner has disappeared, the surviving Maximoff twin is hiding out in Sokovia, and no one's seen Thor for 2 days. May 22nd has everyone spooked. Democrats, Republicans, low class, upper class, country to country. The unsupervised exploits of Tony Stark and the fallout of that has led to one of the most catastrophic days in our history. The only thing keeping Stark out of prison is his reputation and the fact that most don't believe him to be completely at fault. But people are angry, they need someone to blame. And if they can't pinpoint it on a single man, they go for the whole group." Pausing for a moment, Ross continued. "As of now, almost every country within the United Nations is working with me on a piece of legislation we're calling the Seoul Accords. If all of these countries agree upon, sign, and back these accords, then the Avengers will no longer be an independent group but will instead be placed under the supervision of a United Nations panel who will decide when, where, and how the Avengers or any other enhanced group should be deployed. If anyone refuses, they will be asked to retire their superhero identities." Naruto shifted on his feet as he took in this new information, his eyes leveled with Ross's as he asked, "And where does that leave me?" "Several countries, myself included, are aware of your involvement in Ultron's creation," Ross stated simply. After a moment, he sighed. "But even more are aware that you were the one that killed him, myself included. Your intervention saved thousands of lives. And for that, you have my thanks." "So, what does that mean?" asked the blonde. It means that you will not be under the Soul Accord's jurisdiction. You and anyone sponsored by your team will fall into a separate clause within the Accords that is essentially the deal we agreed upon a month ago. The Secretary of State explained. Looking at the man warily, Naruto asked, "What's the catch?" "You are not, under any circumstance, to allow anyone associated with the Avengers into your team. This includes the Maximoff girl. As far as the UN is concerned, she is to sign the Accords or turn herself in for her role in May 22nd. Ross answered. Tony Stark is under the same assumption. He either folds into the Accords, or we do more than hold a hearing over his creation of the terrorist entity known as Ultron. That's pretty cutthroat. Kurama murmured. Either the Avengers sign, retire, or become criminals in the eyes of the world governments. Cutting off you as an alternative cripples the likelihood of them telling the government to fuck off like they have. Nodding mentally, Naruto sighed. Alright, I agree. Ross extended his hand. Then we have a deal. As Naruto gripped the older man's hand, Ross pulled him in. This is the only freebie you're ever going to get, Uzumaki. 5 of 22 will live in the consciousness of humanity for a very, very long time. Eventually these people will see you for what you are, and they'll devour you whole. The enemies you've made today will come knocking on your door. Your bill will come due. The man let go, brushing past Naruto to walk along the church's aisle. Watching the man leave, Naruto scratched his cheek. That's the thing. It wasn't free. As he said this, his eyes lingered on the empty coffin. It only took a couple more hours before the church had begun to fill up with people wishing to pay their respects before the services. Naruto was surprised by both the amount of people waiting and the notoriety of the people in general. He swore he saw the President of the United States giving Laura a hug before disappearing in a sea of Secret Service officers. Naruto spent his time either greeting people who were attending, dodging any member of the media, and standing with Laura and the kids. Lila stuck with him for most of it, holding his hand as he went back and forth around the building. She refused to go to the coffin, staying with Naruto or Cooper the entire time with a tight grip on their hand. Cooper did his best to stay out of sight, only smiling when someone randomly walked up to give their condolences. Laura had been given a chair near the entrance, staying off her feet as she greeted everyone with as forced a smile Naruto could imagine. Eventually, members of the Avengers began to meander into the church. Natasha and Steve were the first to arrive, followed by Thor, who was dressed in ceremonial Asgardian funeral wear of a dark brown cloak. Steve, who was standing next to Naruto while Natasha held Laura in a gentle hug, whispered, "Have you heard?" Naruto looked down at Lila to make sure she wasn't paying attention before answering. "Yeah, Ross told me." Steve was silent for a moment before saying in a hushed voice, "I'm guessing joining Infinity Watch is out of the question." "It appears so." Naruto returned somberly. "I'm sorry." "I understand," Steve reassured. "Tony figured that wouldn't be an option." Nodding, the Uzumaki asked, "What's his take on it?" "He was on board before they threatened him with possible jail time." Steve muttered somberly. "He's a mess. I wouldn't know, haven't seen him since, well, you know." Naruto said with a sigh. "I thought he'd be here. He doesn't want to cause a scene." The captain surmised, though he didn't seem pleased by it. "So, who do you think's gonna sign?" Steve rubbed his arm in thought. "Tony's a definite, which means Rhodey is too. Apparently the Maximoff girl is under the same scrutiny as Tony, but I doubt she'll sign either way." Naruto nodded towards Natasha with a raised eyebrow. Steve shrugged with a defeated frown. "What about you?" "I'm thinking about it." The blonde shinobi frowned. "Are you seriously thinking about quitting?" "You." Before Steve could answer, Naruto felt Lila pull at his hand. Looking down, he frowned as he saw the girl pointing towards the door. Wading through the throng of onlookers, supporters, and television crews, Tony Stark emerged from the crowd. With him, his trusty bodyguard Happy Hogan, with Pepper Potts trailing behind in an elegant black ensemble. Tony wore a simple black and white suit, a pair of his trademark shades perched over his eyes. Laura must have spotted him before anyone else, as she'd lifted herself up off her chair with Natasha's help. Ignoring Naruto's calling of her name, the pregnant woman confronted the Iron Man halfway up the steps. Tony stopped in front of Laura, a nervous crease in his brow. The air was awkward as Laura looked down at him as she cradled her engorged belly. Pepper, trying to cut the tension, delicately said, "Mrs. Barton, my name is Pepper Potts. I am so sorry for your loss. I didn't think you'd show up." Laura interrupted softly, the statement directed at Tony. Tony's frown remained as he said, I don't think I couldn't. Not after Dash, not after what happened? What did happen, exactly? Laura cut off sharply. I didn't ask, I didn't want to ask. There was barely anything left for us to bury. Why would I want to know why? But I'm sure you know. I'm sure you've been thinking about it, how you could have prevented it, how you could have saved him. So, tell me, what happened? Laura, stop. Naruto said, looking at the gathering photographers and cameramen recording them. When she didn't answer, he took a step forward. Dash. It was my fault. Laura faltered, not expecting Tony's answer. What? Dipping his head, the man said, I've gone over it in my head thousands of times, and every time I come to the same conclusion. He died because of me. Tony ignored Naruto and Pepper's shock, looking at Laura through his shades. I murdered him, and here you are. Laura said, anger seeping into her voice. Here you are, late and wearing those damned glasses, here of all places. What is wrong with you? She demanded, her hands reaching for the shades as she finished. What is wrong, Dash? Laura stopped as she pulled off the sunglasses, expression softening at Tony's reddened eyes. Tears were glazed along his eyes, barely held back as he looked away. With his shaking hand, he wiped them away. With a sudden motion, Laura's hand came in towards Tony's face, the man flinching sharply. He blinked as her hand wrapped around his neck, pulling him into a hug. Feeling Laura wrap her arms around him, the man known as Iron Man slowly returned it, holding her as his shoulders began to shake. As a wave of flashes came from the photographers around them, Naruto silently escorted them into the church. Naruto sat in the front right pew, sitting in the middle with Lila to his left and Steve to his right. To Lila's left sat Natasha, Cooper, and Laura. To Steve's right sat Thor, Tony, and Pepper. Happy stood outside, listening to the service but providing faux security. Standing next to the coffin, the pastor finished his sermon from his podium. For anyone who has something to say about the dearly departed, you may come to the podium. Taking that as his sign, Naruto cleared his throat as he made to get up. Ignoring the clicking cameras and murmuring crowd, he slowly walked up to the podium as he gave a departing nod to the pastor. The man, grizzled and weary, gave Naruto the podium antipathetically. Shifting behind the podium as he cleared his throat again, the blonde looked out over the crowd. Everyone was looking up to him, giving him various degrees of their attention. Running his hands over the edge of the podium's top, Naruto took a deep breath as he collected his thoughts one last time. Hey, everybody. He was answered with a few coughs and the creaking of people shifting in their seats. Swallowing the lump in his throat, Naruto continued. I'm honestly not too good with talking about this kind of stuff. I'm up here today, because I was asked, and I felt I needed to at least say something. Looking down at Laura, she gave him a nod. Nodding back with a lopsided smile, Naruto said, For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'd known Clint for 7 years. He was assigned to me for most of my time working alongside S.H.I.E.L.D., though thanks to the internet I'm sure most of you knew that already. What most of you probably don't know is that I'm not from here. And by from here I mean Earth. Naruto paused, allowing the surprised murmurs and groans to pass. Coughing into his hand, he resumed his thought. Clint kinda knew what I was, that I wasn't some worthless rookie who needed to be shown the ropes of violence and war. I'd been fighting for nearly 5 years by the time we met. I'd gone through and seen just as much as him, if not more. But what he did see was that I wasn't handling it well, not as well as him anyway. He could see and do and experience these horrible things, but he always had support. And he knew that. I was always jealous of him for that. Here I was, in this strange new place with new rules and new expectations, and every so often I'd get a taste of what it meant to be a human with his family. And it felt good, but it never lasted. Eventually I always had to leave, to find something new to take up my attention because if I focused too long on what I couldn't have I knew I'd go insane. And Clint was always there to give me that taste. He let me into his family because he knew I could never have one. Well, maybe. I don't actually know if I can have kids, due to me being an alien and stuff. I feel like I've heard I can't, but I've never really tried, so who knows. A cough split through the room, Naruto taking that moment to awkwardly pause. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, thinking about family. I always wanted one, as a kid. I grew up my entire life as an orphan. My parents died saving my life on the day I was born. For a long time I was almost entirely alone. But every so often I'd find myself in a relationship that filled that void. I've had several friends I've thought of as brothers who are dead now. I had a teacher who I thought of as a father, but he was killed. There was this girl who was practically my sister, but she died because I couldn't protect her. By the time I met Clint, everyone I'd ever loved was dead and gone. And when you have so many people you've lost, all it does is add more and more what-ifs. Maybe I'd be married by now, with kids and a job and all that stuff. That's the trick, really. You can't think about it. Otherwise you're just going to consume yourself with this horrible sadness. And what good'll that do? Who are you helping? An agreeing murmur broke out in the crowd. Nodding along, Naruto said, I think we're going to hear a lot of stories today, telling us how much of a hero Clint was, how he was their best friend and how much of a good person he was. And all of this is true. He was a hero. He was a great friend, and a loving father, and an adoring husband. And all of these people, I'm sure, either feel guilt or are condemning someone else. You're so sure that something could have been done. And maybe you're right. Maybe something could have been done. I bet you can imagine the guilt I feel right now over the things I should have done in hindsight. But for Clint, for his memory's sake, don't. He wouldn't want you spreading that kind of thing on his behalf. Though Naruto caught several nods, he spotted a few who visibly didn't agree. But he moved forward. I'm going to remember Clint, my brother. Not what could have or should have been. And he'd ask the same of all of you. Looking over at the coffin, Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat. In the words of my people, when a person dies he disappears, his past, present, and future. Many people die in missions and war. They can die easily and in surprisingly simple ways. Those who die had goals and dreams. They had things even more important than that. Parents, siblings, friends, lovers, people who were important to them. They trusted and helped each other. The bond between the people important to them since birth, and the string that binds them becomes thicker and stronger as time goes by. It's beyond reason. Those bound by that string will sacrifice themselves for that. Because it's important. We were important to Clint. We should be happy for that. The rest of the service was, naturally, a somber one. Natasha had gone up after him, telling the story of the first time they met. Steve was next, giving a heartfelt speech on what it means to sacrifice oneself for what they love. One by one, people came up to the podium to tell tale of Clint and how he'd affected their lives. It was a slow, meaningful cacophony of eulogies, each one showing a different side to Clint that some might not have been aware of. But eventually these petered out and the procession began. Naruto, Thor, Steve, and several of Clint's former Marine brothers-in-arms all acted as pallbearers, silently carrying what remained of their brother to his final resting place. Naruto silently watched as the coffin was lowered into its grave. He'd hesitated to place a comforting hand onto a grieving Cooper's shoulder but stopped short when he realized it might not be his place. Lila didn't seem to care for his hesitance, her hand encompassed within his as she sobbed into his pant leg during the entire burial. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse, leaving Steve, Natasha, and Thor, all of whom were talking to Naruto, off to the side while Laura gave her thanks to those still lingering behind. Where does a god go to train exactly? Natasha asked, her arms filled with a tired Lila. Is there a brochure? Can anyone go, or is an exclusive kind of thing? Thor stroked his beard. Naruto recommended it, actually. Said Blonde shrugged off their attention. You wanted somewhere secluded, Berhert is the definition. That, and since I'd nearly blown up Berhert a couple times already, I figured it could handle some of Point Break's lightning. That, and it's peaceful enough that Odin might be able to enjoy himself despite your best efforts. And why do you need to train, exactly? Natasha couldn't help but wonder. If it's because you're the third strongest Avenger or something third? Thor interrupted, slightly exasperated. I think we all know who the strongest Avenger is. Natasha and Steve gave the Asgardian blank looks. Thor deflated, jerking his thumb over at Naruto. How does he count? He's not even an Avenger. He argued weakly. He's got a point. Naruto added on. Right, whatever, second strongest then. Natasha continued, a sardonic smirk in play. If this is just some kind of compensation thing, you should know that we love you for who you are, big guy. Thor grumbled half-heartedly. That's a lot of lip coming from the weakest Avenger. At least I know where I stand. She shot back without a care. Steve shook his head, eyeing Naruto as he said, So, you've got the location of another Infinity Stone. I assume you'll be heading out soon. Pretty soon, yeah? Naruto said. I've put it off long enough, I'm heading out in a few days. He looked around. If any of you want to come along, feel free. Natasha shook her head. I think I'm going to stay with Laura. She's due in a few weeks and I think someone should be around just in case. Shifting on his feet with conflict high on, Steve muttered. It's probably not a good idea for me to go off-world. Nodding, Naruto eyed Thor. What about you, big guy? Thor smiled grandly, giving Naruto a mighty pat on the back, forcing the blonde forward slightly. I think I can make time for a space adventure. Well, I think I'm gonna head out. Steve said, quickly shaking Naruto and Thor's hands. Don't forget to keep in touch. With a final wave, he left to give Laura his goodbyes. Thor followed soon after, shooting off into the sky with assistance from Mjolnir. Now alone together, Natasha eyed Naruto up and down. When was the last time you slept? She finally asked. Surprised at first, Naruto laughed her off. Oh, I'm fine. Naruto. The redhead insisted softly. His shoulders slumping, he rubbed his neck. Few days, I guess. Bad dreams? No, just a little restless. He admitted with a humorless laugh. She put a comforting hand on his arm. Want to talk about it? Honestly, you're not the one I need to talk to about it. Naruto answered, scratching at the back of his neck. Oh. Realizing how that came off, Naruto quickly added. Not that I don't want to, you know. It's just that, well, I get it, Naruto, really. Natasha reassured. Stepping up, she wrapped him in a tight hug. Talk to whoever you have to talk to. Slowly returning the hug, Naruto leaned into it. Okay. Letting go, she discreetly wiped at her eye. I think I'm gonna head back to the homestead with Laura and the kids. You gonna stick around? Yeah. See you soon? Yeah. It took a while, but eventually the graveyard was empty save one. Stuffing his hands in his pockets, Naruto looked down at Clint's pristine headstone. Inscribed into the white marble was Clinton Francis Barton, Sergeant U.S. Marines. Gulf War, Afghanistan War, Iraq War. September 10, 1971 to May 22, 2015. He was our heart. Closing his eyes, Naruto took in a deep breath as he focused his mind. Feeling the pull of his subconscious, he fell into the necessary corner of his mindscape. Hello, beloved. Opening his eyes, he was met with Freya sitting at her campfire. She didn't bother looking at him, her eyes on the ever-present hearth. Without saying a word, he sat down next to her. They sat in silence for a while, watching the flames lick up into the dark void as it ate away at the metaphorical air. Why haven't you been sleeping, Naruto? He eyed her from his peripheral. You know why. The gift you were given? The blonde laughed. Gift? Is that not what it was? Freya wondered. He paused and thought before answering. That's not why I can't sleep. I'd come to terms with them being gone a while ago. It hurt to see them again, but it was kind of a relief too, I guess. It answered the only question I had about it. And now that I know what I could have had, I guess it opens the door for what I can still have. Then why? Naruto shifted, facing her. I attacked you, Freya. I took out what I felt on the first thing I saw. You didn't deserve that. She turned to look at him. Their eyes met and she smiled. Slowly, almost nervously, she drew in closer to him. Though his first instinct made him want to back away from her encroaching face, Naruto stayed true. And as their personal spaces collided, and their noses brushed, her hand delicately slid up his chest. He shivered at the touch. That shiver was followed by a thick gag for air as her hand shot up from his chest and wrapped around his neck. Feeling the blood rushing to his face, Naruto hacked as he was pushed onto his back. Sitting on his chest, Freya's hair draped around his face as she choked the life out of him with one hand. Naruto flinched as her other hand began to caress his face lovingly. There, now we're even. He coughed and hacked as her fingers relaxed their grip, though she remained on his chest, smiling down gently. Naruto blinked away the spots in his vision. That doesn't change, I could continue if you'd like? Freya asked, her fingers running along his Adam's apple. You don't have to feel sorry for me, beloved. You don't have to apologize. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a little above morality. I understood your pain, just as I understood your remorse. You can't apologize to a being such as myself. It's like apologizing to the weather. Pointless. It isn't to me. Naruto grunted, her weight digging into his lungs. She faltered, looking at him quizzically. You don't understand Dash. I understand the meaning of an apology. Naruto insisted harshly. Even if you don't, I do. Freya was at a loss for words, her head tilted in confusion as she observed his sincerity. Grunting as he sat up, she shifted onto his legs. Grabbing her hand that was still along his neck, he gripped her wrist as he looked her in the eye. I'm sorry, he said firmly, his voice steady. Her breath had begun to pick up slightly, her eyes roaming over his face in thought. Eventually, she muttered, That's not the only reason why you've been avoiding me. Getting up off of him, she glided back to her spot. Kneeling back down, she looked at him expectantly. From his spot on the ground, Naruto grunted as he began to get up. No, it's not. Looking into the fire, she sighed. You wanted to know about Clint Barton. Sitting down next to her, he nodded hesitantly. I've been wanting to ask Dash if you could speak to him through me. Freya finished, frowning. That's not within my power, beloved. Once someone passes into that plane, they are beyond mortal communication. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat. What did he say when you took him? I don't think you want to hear Dash, please. Naruto insisted. Seemingly debating with herself, she looked away from the fire and looked Naruto in the eye. He struggled with it. A heat began to build into Naruto's chest as he asked, What do you mean? He insisted I was wrong, that I was a trick. I had to prove my validity, and then he became silent. He asked for more time, for a final goodbye. I refused. Freya explained solemnly. Once he realized his situation, he faced it. He hesitated as he reached the other side, just once, so he could ask, was it worth it? What did you say? Naruto demanded, curious. I lied. They sat in silence, looking into the flames as it ate away at the phantasmal logs. Location: Novigrad. Sokovia night had fallen, snow cascading down onto the fluorescently lit patch of land. The wind that carried the snow blew past the dead and blackened trees, singing loudly and drowning out the sounds of construction and busy streets. Standing over a cold tombstone, Wanda Maximoff read and reread the name carved into it. The sound of feet breaking through the blanket of snow caught her attention, though she didn't bother turning to the intruder. Wanda? Wanda kept her attention on the headstone. What are you doing here, Naruto? Smiling, Naruto stepped up next to her. Just here to give you something. Is that all? Naruto shook his head, folding his hands over his chest to protect himself from the cold. I came here to pay my respects. Why? Wanda wondered, looking at the man in confusion. You didn't know him, Dash. Kneeling in front of the headstone, Naruto muttered. Who paid for the service? Still confused, the girl answered. They said it was anonymous. I assumed it might be Stark. Right. Naruto said. Are you staying in town or Dash? Why are you here, Naruto? Wanda demanded. I appreciate you being here, but I don't think you came to talk about what motel I'm staying at. Right. The blonde said again. Straightening up, he reached into his coat pocket. They confiscated this, after I dropped your brother off at the helicarrier. I figured you'd want it back. Looking down at his outstretched hand, Wanda frowned when she realized he was presenting her with a Polaroid. Gently, she grabbed it. Flipping it over in her fingers, she held back a grasp at the picture presented to her. Smiling up at her, a younger Pietro was surrounded by their departed parents, the family sitting at their old dining room table. Stained over her younger face, dried blood was smeared across her cheerful smile. Quickly dabbing her eyes, Wanda forced a smile. Thank you. You're welcome. Naruto returned. Pausing, he continued. There was something else. Something else? The girl wondered, distracted as she carefully put the picture in her back pocket. Has anyone talked to you in the past couple days? Wondered the Uzumaki. Anybody from the Avengers or military? I haven't talked to anyone since that day. I kinda sunk into the cracks after everything that happened, admitted Wanda. What's going on? Turning to her fully, he answered. The United Nations is scrapping together a document they're calling the Soul Accords. They're forcing the Avengers to sign and abide by them, under the threat of retirement. Wanda, you're under that jurisdiction. If you don't sign, they're going to classify you as a criminal. A criminal? Wanda demanded. Why would I, Dash? After what you and Pietro did, they'd rather have you under watch or in a cell. You and Tony Stark are gonna be given the same choice. Naruto explained. Wanda scoffed. I'd rather Dash. You don't know what they do to people like you. Naruto interrupted. There's a place they've built called the Raft. They're gonna stick you in there and you're never going to see the light of day again. If you sign, if you swallow your pride, you can at least live your life. Maybe I don't want to live my life, Wanda refuted. Because of me, Pietro is dead. Hundreds of people are dead. Why do I deserve dash? Because I know you killed the last one. That made Wanda freeze. What? Nodding, he said. You killed the last one, the last Ultron. Not me, not Tony, not anyone else. You don't deserve the Raft. Pietro didn't die so you could go to the Raft, did he? No, admitted the girl. He didn't. Resting his hand on her shoulder, Naruto muttered. Don't waste that sacrifice, okay? Just sign and try to move on from there. After a moment of thought, Wanda finally said, I'll think about it. They waited in an uncomfortable silence. Finally, Naruto asked, Where were you staying? Not far, Wanda replied. A few blocks away. Let me walk you back. Naruto offered with as welcoming a smile as he could muster. Raising a curious eyebrow, Wanda wondered aloud. Why? The man shrugged. Does anyone have to have a good reason to walk a girl home? Wanda sighed. Looking down at the headstone, she sighed. Okay, let's go. Turning, she trudged out of the cemetery. Looking at her in surprise, Naruto smiled softly before catching up, so he was walking beside her. The echoing crunch of their feet crunching against the snow made up for the lack of conversation, Naruto sticking his hands in his pockets as they began to walk into the outskirts of the city. His eyes wandering the dimly lit Novigrad streets, he frowned at the various ribbons showing their morning support over May 22nd loitered along the buildings and lampposts. It didn't make me feel better. Blinking his eyes as his eyebrows furrowed, Naruto asked, What? Looking ahead, Wanda explained, When I killed him, Ultron, it didn't make me feel any better. You were right. A broken clock is right twice a day. Naruto offered with a weak smile. Honestly, I'm not the best at handling that kind of stuff either, so I shouldn't have been dishing out advice. Pausing for a beat, Wanda looked up at him. I don't know if I can work with Stark, or any of the Avengers for that matter. And I doubt they'd want to work with me. I understand the feeling. Naruto nodded along. Sighing, she continued, But I'm tired of being a fugitive. I'm tired of being on the wrong side. At least if I sign, I know I'm working for something that's good. Maybe it'll rub off on me by proxy or something. Maybe you'll get that chance at Stark you've always wanted. Naruto offered with a playful smile, only to frown when he realized he might be hitting the nail on the head. Actually, never mind. As Wanda broke out into a chuckle, a smile of his own came out. What about you? What are you going to do now? Wanda asked after a moment. Running a hand through his hair, Naruto replied, I'm gonna do what I was doing before this whole mess started. Make a team, get them ready, go from there. Secretary Ross is giving me a slap on the wrist over my part in Ultron, and I'm being allowed to do what I want so long as I don't step on any toes, which is fine by me after everything. I need to do some scouting, and I've got a few people on my list. He looks at her from his peripheral. You were on it, but now Ross and the United Nations have called a proverbial dibs on you for all intents and purposes. Those were some big words you just used there, trying to impress Little Miss Sunshine? Kurama wondered from within the seal. Shut up. Naruto grumbled in thought. Wanda stopped, nodding to the building at their right as she said, This is me. Right, said the Uzumaki, fumbling with the inside pocket to his coat. What are you doing? Wanda wondered, perturbed as Naruto began to pat himself down. Running his hands over his sides, Naruto thought aloud. What did I do with the damn thing? Kurama sighed. You sealed it away on your wrist, dingus. Been expanding your insult repertoire, have you? Naruto shot back in frustration as he channeled chakra to the seal on his wrist. Gotta do something to pass the time, troglodyte. Though he was sure his partner had used that word knowing he didn't know what it meant, Naruto ignored it as he caught the object that puffed into existence from his conveniently placed storage seal. Flipping it in his hand so he was holding the blade, he presented the kunai to Wanda. Looking at it wearily, Wanda asked, What is that for? This knife was specially made by me last time I was home. On the handle is a seal that lets me teleport to it any time. If you ever need me for anything, just throw it, and I'll come around, Naruto explained with a smile. Wanda blinked a couple times as she looked down at the kunai before looking back up at him. Have you ever heard of a phone? Naruto deflated animatedly. This is better than a phone. he exclaimed. This lets me come to you in a second. What kind of phone does that? Couldn't you just stick a seal thing on a phone? That way I could call or text you instead of having to find something to stab this into. Wanda chided, though she still took the knife gently in her hands. Scratching the back of his head, Naruto muttered, I never thought of that. Wanda turned the blade over in her hands. It's very pretty. It's from your home? Watching her inspect the blade and the seal inscripted on the handle, he answered, Yeah, it is. Lowering the kunai, Wanda looked back up at him with a soft smile. Thank you? You're welcome. Naruto returned with a smile of his own. Turning to walk into the building, Wanda paused as she reached the door. Looking at him one more time, she asked, I can call you any time? For anything? Giving a confused frown, Naruto nodded reassuringly. Of course. She turned back to the door. Good night, Naruto. Good night. 3 days later, Jessica Drew couldn't help but feel awkward as she stood in the middle of the Bartons' living room, her arms folded sternly as she tapped her foot on the hardwood floor. Nervous? Jessica regarded Ileana, the woman leaning against the kitchen table lazily. Aren't you? The blonde shrugged. Not really. Going into space to a place called nowhere doesn't make you nervous? Jessica asked skeptically. Ileana quirked a brow. I'm being trained by an immortal warlock who can send your astral form through all planes of existence. Space isn't that much weirder compared to that. Shaking her head, Jessica rolled her eyes. Sure, okay. As Ileana made to prove her point, a loud thwomp came from outside, a rainbow of colors shining brightly through the rattling front windows. Footsteps thundered down the steps. Little Lila tumbled down to see what the commotion was. Cooper stood at the top step, observing apathetically. What was that? Jessica asked. Laura waddled out from the back of the dining room, annoyance etched into her face as she grumbled. If that man left another one of those marks on my lawn, I'm gonna skin him, I swear. Lila threw the door open, revealing Thor on the other side as he reached the porch steps. The man had foregone his usual set of armor, instead wearing something a little lighter in the form of a thick sleeveless leather tunic. His beefy arms were bare save the leather wraps along his forearms, and his cape was a lighter red that was draped across his back to prevent it from dragging along the ground. Grinning merrily, he waved at Lila and Laura, only to grimace as Laura began to swat at him with the rolled-up magazine in her hand. What did I tell you about burning my grass? Laura demanded, each word punctuated with a swat from her makeshift weapon. Jessica raised an eyebrow at the wall of a man as he ducked into Laura's tirade. Nudging Ileana, she muttered, This is Thor? The sorcerer answered, watching in amusement as Laura calmed herself down, one hand resting on her stomach and the back of the other on her forehead. As Thor helped her up the steps, she muttered, You'd give aspirin a headache, you know that? The god of thunder chuckled as he helped Laura into a wicker chair. My mother used to say something similar. She's a smart woman then. Laura huffed as she relaxed in the chair. Eyeing Thor, she asked, Aren't you going along? Even Naruto's getting dressed up for where you're going. Thor chuckled. An Asgardian can survive the perils of space. Looking around, he asked, Where is Naruto? Natasha's helping him get ready upstairs. Laura answered. The brute gave her a questioning look but shrugged nonetheless as he turned his attention to the two other women standing a few feet away. The two of them were wearing their Infinity Watch uniforms, the tight armor clearly meant to protect them from the dangers of the galaxy beyond. Upstairs, Naruto looked at his reflection, satisfied that the suit fit him perfectly. The girl can make an awesome set of armor, that's for sure, he muttered. Where did you find her anyway? Natasha asked from behind him, strapping the sheathed nakama to his back. Shuri? Naruto asked, scratching his chin nervously. Oh, you know, those shield files you put out. Natasha gave his back a skeptical look. I never read her file on any of those encryptions. Must have missed her then. She shook her head, dropping the subject. With one final tug, she patted him on the back. There, you're all set. The Uzumaki grinned. The armor that Shuri had fashioned for him was a slick and slim design, fitting his body snugly in a black color scheme with orange highlights. The orange trimmed along the black nicely, tapering down his arms and legs in a straight line. His orange belt buckle, like Ileana's and Jessica's, held the sigil of their team, the symbol for infinity. The texture of the armor reminded him of Dora Milaje armor, slim but powerful. It was clearly made to suit mobility. All right, just one more test and we're golden, Naruto muttered, pressing his hand onto a patch on his shoulder. In a thup, a helmet emerged from the base of his neck, wrapping around his head perfectly. The helmet's visor covered the entire front of his face, allowing Natasha to see his gleeful smile. Good? She asked, tilting his head up to make sure everything was where it should be. He nodded. Not good, great. Natasha walked past him, picking up the man's scattered shirt and jacket that he'd discarded. Agent Drew, do you trust her? Deactivating the helmet, Naruto gave her a side glance as he gave his arms a few testing stretches. I've worked with her before, she's more than capable for what we're doing. That's not what I meant. The Black Widow insisted with a huff as she folded the clothes over each other. Naruto nodded. Yeah, I know. Flexing his hands, he muttered. If she's bad news, I'll know soon enough. This is a test, then? Natasha asked, tucking some stray strands of hair behind her ear. Pretty much. Finished expecting the new suit, Naruto grinned. How do I look? Like a Power Ranger. The blonde scratched his cheek. I don't know what that is that bad? The redhead giggled softly. I'm kidding, it looks good. A knock came from the door, followed by Cooper's muffled voice. Thor's here. All right, thanks. Naruto answered. Grin still in place, he said to Natasha. Well, time to go. Stepping out of the room, he smiled down at Cooper, the boy giving him a small wave as he went back to his room. Pondering on the room's door, Naruto sighed before turning to head downstairs. As he reached the final step, a bundle shot onto his leg, wrapping around the limb tightly preventing him from taking another step. You're coming back, right? Placing a hand on Lila's head, Naruto gave a large smile. Sure am. Promise. K. The girl muttered into his leg, though she didn't let go. Gently, Naruto pried her off him. Kneeling down, Naruto kept his smile in place as he lifted his hand up. Lila looked at the extended hand, his fingers locked in a fist save for his pinky, the short digit sticking up straight. Making the same gesture with her hand, she wrapped her pinky around his. Their silent pinky swear now locked between the two of them, Lila let Naruto pass. The little girl still followed close behind him as he walked outside, giving Thor a nod hello. Looking to the small group he'd formed, Naruto said, Time to go. From her chair, Laura called out, Good luck. Make sure not to have that baby until I get back, alright? Naruto said as he stepped down the porch steps. She laughs as she rubs her stomach soothingly. No promises. Walking out onto the lawn, Naruto spotted the large Bifrost imprint branded into the fresh-cut grass. Turning to Thor, he motioned to the intricate scorch mark. Really? Thor walked past, brushing off the question merrily. So, where's this ship you've been talking about? I call shotgun. He looked behind him at Ileana and Jessica for confirmation. That's what you call the front seat, correct? While Ileana answered with a helpful nod, Naruto said, Sorry, buddy, but I need my co-pilot sitting shotgun. He looked at Jessica from over his shoulder. That's you, by the way. Me? Jessica asked, confused. Why? Flying my ship is about the same as flying a Quinjet. And last I'd heard, you were one of the top Quinjet pilots back in the day. Naruto answered, coming to a stop as he bit into his thumb. Wiping the blood across his palm, he began to flip through a set of hand signs. Don't worry, I'll have the co-pilot controls locked. I just need someone next to me just in case. Just in case what? Jessica asked. Ileana rolled her eyes. Use your imagination. Space stuff, obviously. As Jessica gave the woman a glare, Naruto slammed his blood-smeared hand onto the ground. In a large puff of smoke, the Kushina appeared in front of them. Looking up at her proudly, Naruto said, Yup, space stuff. Why aren't we just teleporting there with one of your seals? Asked Ileana, knowing she was up for a long ride. The seal I put there isn't active for some reason. Naruto said as the bay doors opened, and the set of stairs descended. The collector probably had the entire place scoured from top to bottom looking for it after the last time I was there. After giving an excited Lila a quick tour, Infinity Watch and their Asgardian companions strapped themselves into the cockpit, awaiting liftoff. In the two pilot seats, Naruto sat on the left with Jessica at the right. As the Uzumaki prepped the ship, flipping the random switch and pressing coordinates into the navigation display, the former CIA agent observed his every move and decision, memorizing should she need to do the same. Behind Naruto, Ileana looked at Thor, who was sitting in the seat behind Jessica. Her eyes on the hammer sitting in his lap, she asked. Was that thing really made by the dwarves of Nidavellir? Surprised, Thor asked. You know of it? Sure, Ileana answered. Master Minoru spoke highly of it. Is it true that Excalibur was forged there as a gift to the Olympians? But no Olympian ever proved themselves worthy. And insulted, Zeus hurled the blade from planet Olympus. Thor continued for her, impressed by her knowledge. Its magic eventually drove it to Midgard, where it awaited a truly worthy master. Did you ever get to see it before it was lost? Ileana wondered. Thor nodded. Once. I saw it be tested by the dwarf king Eitri. It was truly fearsome. Naruto glanced at Jessica, motioning to her throttle. If you need to take control, jerk the throttle forward twice. Other than that, the controls are fairly similar to the Quinjets, minus a few things. Minus a few things? Jessica questioned, flabbergasted. This is an alien spacecraft. The few similarities are far and in between compared to the complex system this ship uses. You don't actually expect me to be able to dash. I expect you to watch and listen. Naruto cut off firmly. Ileana might be my second in command, but I need a co-pilot. You've got the experience, and I know you can adapt. Give it time, you'll learn. Trust me. Though his voice was firm, it also held a layer of reassurance that caused Jessica to sigh in defeat. Nodding, she gripped the throttle and jerked it forward twice. The decals along her dashboard lit green, signaling that she had control. Good, Naruto praised, quickly getting the control back as he continued. Now, we just need to set our coordinates to the nearest jump point, which shouldn't be too far. Jump point? Jessica asked. A jump point is a gateway, helps get from one place to another. It's pretty much like Ileana's portals, only man-made. Naruto explained, tapping into the screen as he locked in where he needed to go. Jessica nodded, taking that in. And who would make one of these jump points just outside our planet? The Kree have an invested stake in your planet. They like to drop by every once in a while, to make sure you haven't blown yourselves up yet. The Uzumaki reasoned, though as he saw Jessica's perturbed look he continued. There's nothing hostile about it, I think. You think? 85% sure. Massaging her forehead, Jessica muttered. Let's just get on with it. Right. Naruto said with a laugh. Get comfortable, gang, we've got 54 jumps to nowhere. To nowhere. Thor cheered, lifting his hammer to punctuate his war call. While Ileana and Naruto merrily followed suit, Jessica continued rubbing the headache away that just kept on persisting. Any reservations Jessica may have had about their trip evaporated as soon as they left Earth's upper atmosphere. As Naruto went into full throttle towards the jump point in between Earth and its moon, the void of space became a glorious blur. Gripping the arm of her seat tightly, Jessica had felt her stomach lift up into her lungs as they hit top speed. All the while, Thor cheered, Ileana giggled gleefully, and Naruto grinned like a madman as the ship rocketed towards its jump point. Eventually, after several minutes, Jessica grew accustomed to the speed. And though she fought it, a grin spread along her face as she realized just how special this day was. She was flying through the void of space, a passenger of an alien craft that was taking to a place literally called nowhere. The boys back home would be jealous. But like all good things, it came to an end. One jump after another, the novelty of it began to fade away. And soon boredom filled its place. Behind her, Ileana read from a worn tome, flipping through it slowly as she took in the mystic knowledge. Thor had taken to flipping his hammer in his hand, catching it effortlessly as he watched the stars blur by. Naruto was the only one seemingly lacking any boredom, though that likely came from piloting a spacecraft going well over 1,000 miles per hour. Needing to break the monotony, Jessica turned to the Uzumaki. So this stone, what does it do exactly? Asked Thor. Naruto offered. He's the one that almost got killed by it. Thor looked up at the attention, catching Mjolnir in his hand deftly. Well, it's not really a stone so much as a sluggish, jello-y kind of thing. But either way, it is dangerous. I'd advise you not to touch it if you can. Then how are we grabbing it, exactly? Ileana questioned. Rest assured, it is encased in an Asgardian lockbox. Thor answered coolly, once again flipping Mjolnir. The collector would be a fool to open it, so it should still be contained when we go to collect it for ourselves. What would it do, if he were foolish enough? Asked Jessica, her full attention hanging off Thor's answer. It is difficult to define, Thor said, catching the handle of his hammer before tossing it back up again. If one were to simply hold the stone with zero way of control, it could cut a hole into the fabric of reality itself, altering everything that is known and unknown to its very core. And with control? Jessica hesitated to ask. With control, reality has no meaning or definition. It is to do with as you like. That's scary, Ileana muttered, the large tome no longer on her mind. Which is why we're going after it, so that kind of thing doesn't happen, Naruto said distractedly, just before an alert popped up on his dashboard. Heads up guys, this jump is the last one. We'll be at nowhere in a couple minutes. In those passing minutes, Jessica silently prepped her sidearm, peeling back the hammer as she looked into the prepped bullets sitting within the chamber. Ileana looked over her shoulder, amused. You're bringing a gun? Am I supposed to? Jessica wondered. The blonde chuckles. No, just kinda weird that you'd bring that to an alien colony that sits inside the head of a celestial. I still find it hard to believe we're going inside the head of a space god. Jessica muttered, sliding the gun into her holster. Believe it, Naruto said, flinching at the involuntary use of that phrase. We're here. The Kushina came to a stop as he exited the last jump point, the ship careening in open space. And there, perched before them, stood the floating mass of a decrepit skull. As an orange hue filled the cockpit, Jessica's voice broke out with a soft, Is it supposed to look like that? No. Naruto said, his mouth agape. No, it isn't. Nowhere was by and large an anomaly. It had its own gravitational pull, oxygen, and other commodities necessary for sustainable life. The skull of the Celestial, a being once known as Essen the Searcher, was roughly twice the size of a Kree battleship. Almost every facet of its cranium had been converted and harvested by the Tyvan group, the empty skull now acting as a hovel for lawlessness and debauchery. Gambling, murder, prostitution, slavery, human trafficking, and bounty hunting all ran through here, all by the guiding hand of the Tyvans and their benefactor, the Collector. All of that was now on fire. Nowhere's once empty eye sockets were now filled with a rolling fire, its worn maw broken and melted away. Who could have done this? Thor demanded, gripping Mjolnir tightly as they grew closer to the flaming celestial skull. Nowhere is sandwiched right in between the Kree and Shi'ar borders. It could have been any one of them, Naruto said grimly. Ileana stared at the back of Naruto's head. But you don't think that's the case? No, he agreed. We'd have spotted a Kree battleship by now if it was them. Hell, we'd have gotten a dispatch by now. And this isn't the Shi'ar Empire's way of doing things. Their Magister isn't one to throw around brute force, and I can't see them going after Nowhere and the Collector. The underworld might not be acceptable inside their borders, but it's still something they'd know to value. Thor rubbed at his beard, his eyes roaming the area in search for discernible ships of any nation. I don't see any warships nearby. It's possible we just missed the attack. Agreed, Jessica added. More than likely the bulk of the attack is over. The question is if it's safe to investigate. We don't really have a choice. Ileana grunted, getting up from her seat as she said, We don't know for sure if the Collector is there, and if he is, if he's dead or alive, or if he still has the stone in his possession. I don't think it's smart to leave any of that up in the air. It's decided then. Naruto pulled the throttle forward, the Kushina shooting off into the burning eye. This is a get in, get out. No dilly-dallying. We get the stone if it's still there, if not we figure out who attacked and go from there. The three nodded, preparing themselves as they drew into the fires of Nowhere. Stepping down from his ship, Naruto reached up and swung out Nakama, the vibranium blade singing as it cut into the hot air. We stick together, Naruto ordered as they looked out over the destroyed layout of Nowhere's inner city. Thor, you're up front. Ileana, in the back. Jess, you're with me. All three nodded, though Jessica gave Naruto a side glance at being called Jess. In formation, the squad trekked forward. Thor, at the front of the diamond formation, held his trusty hammer at the ready. Ileana, having summoned a Tau Mandala in one hand, and an Eldritch Dao in another, followed at the back of the line. Next to Naruto, Jessica paced along carefully, her pistol raised at the ready. Thor, who was in the lead, raised up his fist. Knowing to stop, the group waited apprehensively as footsteps rapped along the corner. Tumbling down onto the street in front of them, the Krylorian woman quickly tried to pick herself up, only to fall to her side in exhaustion. Her pink skin was covered in soot and purple burns, her face scrunched up in fear and pain as she tried to crawl away. Hey! Naruto called out. As he took a step up, a figure fell down next to the Krylorian, their blade driving down into her abdomen. As she screamed out in pain, Thor shot out to meet them. Jessica, with only a moment of hesitation, swept her gun into the figure's direction and opened fire on his torso. She cursed as the bullets ricocheted off the figure's armor with a thwang. Thor, his hammer pulled back, roared as he released a mighty swing into the figure's torso. The sound of metal bending, bone breaking, and flesh tearing filled echoed as the figure was sent flying from the heavy blow. Though Mjolnir was still at the ready, Thor didn't bother making sure it got up, knowing full well it was staying down. Giving her a glance, he sighed as he realized she was dead. "What is that?" Illyana asked, half her attention on her surroundings, the rest on the crumpled heap not 10 yards away. "A Centaurian," Naruto answered, flipping the armored alien onto its back. "They're like those old-timey warriors I always forget the name of. Kinda sounds like ramen or something." "Romans." Jessica connected the dots, standing next to Naruto as she took in the first alien she'd ever seen. It was heavily armored, its design looking to be a cross between a Roman foot soldier and a medieval knight. Its golden plating was painted purple thanks to the open chest cavity, the violet life juice seeping out of the gaping wound like a geyser. His skin tone was a very light blue, with a darker shade of war paint decorating the upper half of his face. His helmet had fallen off from the landing, the blue plum that sat upon the head soaking in the pool of blood. The blade he'd used to kill the girl looked like a pata, the massive blade sticking out from the gauntlet's fist. "The girl's a Krylorian," Thor called out from the girl's side, taking in her elegantly white servant's dress. "Sif told me the collector had been keeping one or two as a slave." Jessica took that in with a hum. "We're close then." Walking up to the group, Thor narrowed his eyes and thought. "Centauri 6 is light years out of the way. What do they gain from sacking nowhere?" Naruto stood up, his face slowly losing color. "Did you say Centauri 6? Not 4, not 5. 6? Thor nodded, puzzled. "Yes, 6. The planet Centauri 6-. Before Thor could finish, Naruto roughly grabbed onto Jessica's arm. "Go back to the ship, now. I'll send a clone with you and Illyana, but you need to get off this colony right fucking now." "What?" Illyana demanded. When Naruto didn't seem to notice, she began to say, "What the hell happened to sticking together? Now isn't the time for that." He answered, deathly calm. Staring into her core, he said, "This became way too dangerous. You guys aren't ready. If you don't leave, you will die. Get it? All plans have been thrown out the window, and I need you to listen to me right now. Get to the ship, get out of here. Thor and I will be with you in a second." Illyana bit back the urge to argue. She knew that look on his face. Naruto was panicked. There wasn't any room in his head for argument. Gripping Jessica's shoulder, the sorceress pulled her along. "Come on, we're going." Jessica knew better than to argue against orders, but it didn't keep her from pulling away from the woman's grip. As Illyana summoned a portal, Jessica gave Naruto one last glance before being pulled in by the sorceress. "So, this is it." Kurama grunted somberly. "Seems like it." Naruto thought back. Seeing a very confused Thor from his peripheral, Naruto said, "Over 2 decades ago, Centauri 6 was the victim of a planet-wide genocide. Half the population was wiped out. It didn't get a lot of publicity, mainly because of who was responsible. 5 years later, the planet rescinded its sovereignty, broke off all ties to its managing empire, and pledged its loyalty to the very man who slaughtered 3 billion of its peoples." "Who?" Naruto smiled warily, looking ahead undeterred. "The Mad Titan himself." Jessica blinked as she and Illyana stepped through the portal, looking around the inside of the Kushina. "I don't think I'll ever get used to that." "Sorry." Illyana grunted distractedly, looking at the pilot's seat. "You think you can lift us off?" "I can lift us off, maybe." Jessica muttered in thought, flashing back to which switches were flipped and how. "Maybe." She persisted as she sat in the co-pilot's chair. "Maybe." The sorceress repeated with a huff, pacing in place. Ignoring her, Jessica did her best to follow what she'd seen Naruto do back at the homestead. What was going on back there anyway? "Naruto's spooked, that's all I need to know, it's serious," Illyana answered. As she said this, something caught her eye from outside the ship. Walking closer to the windshield, she squinted to look past the billowing smoke surrounding the area around the ship. She saw the shine of their armor first. Emerging from the smoke, a platoon of Centurion soldiers converged around the ship, their rifles at the ready. "Shit," Illyana muttered, immediately aware of the danger they were in. Looking up from the panel, Jessica blinked as she realized they were surrounded. Turning to an awestruck Illyana, the brunette got up from her seat to stand beside her. "What do we do?" Illyana blinked at the question. "What?" Naruto says you're the second in command. Jessica explained, her full attention on the sorceress. What's the call? Her eyes widened in shock. Ileana nodded. As she looked over the crowd of centurions, she gave a confident nod. Let's see what you can do, Spider-Woman. Jessica deflated. Please don't call me that. Thor led Naruto through the decimated city streets of nowhere, the endless fire and smoke building in intensity the closer they got to the Collector's Museum. Naruto was surprised at the lack of centurions, coming across none as they trekked along the nearly deserted battlefield. What they did find was countless bodies lying in the purge's wake, their rotting bodies being eaten away by the flames surrounding them. Finally, the two came upon the Collector's Museum. The building was massive, around the size of a multiplex movie theater. As Naruto rested his hand on the doorway, a thud echoed from behind them. Naruto sighed. Turning around, he was met with a massive centurion soldier. The beast of a man stood at a hefty 8 feet tall, his broad shoulders making him seem like two men combined into one. Decorated with heavy armor that protected him from head to toe, this added weight had caused the concrete to crack upon his entry. In his hands, two massive broadswords, blood both fresh and old stained along its edges and broadside. I got this, Thor assured. With a heave, he chucked his trusty Mjolnir towards the beast's torso. To both men's surprise, the centurion deflected the hammer with a mighty clang, Mjolnir veering off course behind him. Naruto eyed a mildly surprised Thor. You got this? Thor didn't bother responding, extending his hand expectantly. An awkward pause later, Mjolnir flew into the Asgardian's hand, its heavy metal singing loudly as it flew through the air. Thunder roared in the background, forcing Naruto to momentarily question where it came from. But he didn't get to ask, as lightning shot out from Mjolnir with crack. Opening the door, Naruto muttered, He's got this. The centurion soldiers gathered around the Kushina continued their slow encroachment towards the ship. The apparent head officer threw his fist up, the platoon coming to a halt. Gesturing to the soldier to his right, he opened his hand and waved in the direction of the Kushina. The soldier didn't hesitate to march towards the ship, his rifle pointed at the ready. Just a few yards from the bow of the ship, the bay doors opened, the stairs descending to the ground. And with a clank for each step it hit, a metallic sphere rolled down in front of the lone soldier. As it came to a stop at his foot, a flashing red light came into view. The soldier looked over to his superior officer. Boom, and then all hell broke loose. As the crack of the explosion sent the poor soldier flying, a portal opened up over the heads of 3 soldiers. As they looked up in confusion, that confusion turned to a surprised scream as a wall of water poured out from the portal, sweeping the men away as several tons of water fell on them head first. A second portal opened, Ileana jumping out with her Tao Mandala and Eldritch Dao in hand. The 3 centurions in her way were unprepared for her sudden entry, and even less prepared for when she opened a portal next to her, and a portal next to Center Centurion's torso. With a jab, she flung her Dao into the portal in front of her, the blade emerging from the second portal into the centurion's chest. She flinched as blood spurted from the wound, but she was forced to move past it as she opened a massive portal under the centurion's feet, swallowing them whole before closing up. She jumped as gunshots rang out from the Kushina's open bay, Jessica opening fire on nearby centurions from the bottom of the stairway. Scowling as the bullets ricocheted off their armor, she tossed the gun to the side before charging in. As the towering soldier in front of her reared back his pata to cleave her head from her shoulders, Jessica slid between his legs feet first. As she swept up underneath him, she grabbed onto his ankle, yellow electricity rolling across the palm of her hand. Just as she jumped up to her feet, the soldier fell to his knee, the leg she'd touched seemingly losing all feeling. Gripping the back of his helmet with both hands, another pulse of electricity erupted from her hands. With a jerk, the man went limp. Ducking, she weaved herself along the jabbing arm of the next centurion attacking her. With a subtle but sharp jab into the crux of his neck, the man's neck snapped back from the force. Ileana, impressed, called out, I didn't know you had sparkly hands. It's bioelectricity. Jessica explained away before she jumped over a charging soldier, landing nimbly. I didn't know you could summon water like Uzumaki can. The blonde shrugged. I just opened a portal up at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, so not really what Naruto can do. Still, Jessica grunted as she blocked a crushing hammer fist with her forearms. Channeling her bioelectricity to her arms, the centurion stumbled back from the shark shock. It's impressive. Thanks. She returned distractedly as the last 3 centurions opened fire on her. Expanding her Tao Mandala to act as a cover, she yelled, Little help? Get me over there! The brunette called. Grinning, Ileana opened a portal up at the other woman's feet and another right above the centurions' heads. Jessica felt her stomach sweep up into her throat as the ground beneath her disappeared, finding herself right on top of the soldiers firing on the sorceress. Falling onto the center man's back, she shot a thick burst of bioelectricity into his torso. As the two fell to the ground, the other two centurions realized Jessica had taken down their comrade. As they spun onto her to unload their weapons, they jerked as another portal the size of a beach ball sprung into existence right next second man's head. They barely had time to realize it was there before water shot out from portal like a fire hose, the pressurized blast of ocean water knocking both men off their feet. When they didn't get up, Jessica's shoulder relaxed as she let out the breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Silence hung over the two, their heavy breathing and the crackling fires around them distracting them from the "Hey, the boss just realized he forgot to send one. Holy shit, what happened here?" The women jumped as a Naruto shadow clone popped up out of nowhere, taking in the battleground around him with wonder. Jessica gave the clone a light glare, blowing the hair out of her face with a huff. Blinking, the shadow clone tilted his head. What? Naruto couldn't help but take in the museum as he crept along the admittedly impressive building. The fire had yet to get into the building, leaving everything intact for the blonde to take in. The first section of the museum held all of the fauna the collector had amassed for himself. There were a few trees he recognized from Berhert, a crazy-looking vine he knew was from Alfheim that seemed to have a mind of its own, even a giant redwood from Earth. The rest was entirely alien to him, the varying colors and shapes momentarily distracting him from the oppressive air circumventing along the building. The next section ruined any awe he had for the collector's trove. The menagerie of intergalactic species was sickeningly impressive, Naruto guessing that nearly 100 different species sat within captivity. Each one was given their own glass cage, all of them splayed out lifelessly. The glass that had once kept them in captivity was shattered, their bodies riddled with bullet holes. A dark elf foot soldier, a Cosmosian bureaucrat, a Baden hunter, a Strontian gladiator, a Chameleon slave, and a Cronin revolutionary were all easily recognizable, but Naruto was shameful to admit that he couldn't recognize most of the species held in captivity, the spectacle-wearing blue-skinned alien with a thick mustache and fairly receded hairline being the one that threw him for a loop the most. "How much you want to bet most of them were nearly extinct?" Kurama grunted with disgust. "Think about that later," Naruto answered aloud as he entered section containing the collector's prized relics. Unlike the previous sections that held their exhibits in one row after another, this room was circular, with each relic displayed along the wall like an art gallery. In the center, a beam of magnetic energy was projected from the ceiling, likely acting as the holding place for the collector's most prized possession. A possession that had been pried from his cold, dead fingers. Lying prone next to the center display, the collector's cooling corpse stared up at him, the man's frozen face filled with pain and horror. Standing over the body, his murderer, his back facing the blonde shinobi. "I'd hoped you'd come, Maelstrom." Naruto slowly walked further into the gallery, his hands flexing tensely. "Why's that?" The Titan let out a chuckle, the baritone throttle giving the merry chortle a sinister edge. "I wanted the pleasure of meeting the strongest man in the universe. It's an honor." The blonde frowned at the man across from him. He seemed to be distracted by what was in his hands, his face barely visible from his angle. "I thought that kind of thing went to you," he stated coolly, coming to a stop at just a few yards away. "I'm not the one holding 3 infinity stones." The man shot back, finally turning to face the blonde. He was just as large as he remembered him, standing at just a few inches shorter than the Hulk. His body was covered in an elaborate golden armor, with black pieces highlighting the set beautifully. The beauty of the armor was ruined by the various shades of dried blood speckled along the worn suit. Sitting on his head was a form-fitting helmet, the protective shell only leaving his face open. Resting in his right hand was a massive double-bladed sword that was as tall as Naruto was, monstrous weapon singing loudly with every movement, its razor-sharp edge cutting into the air. Any other time, Naruto would have taken a second to take the impressive warrior in. But the red glare coming from his left hand took that attention away. Covering his arm, a magnificent gauntlet. The golden plating shined in eerie orange from the bright red light that came from the gauntlet's knuckle. Sitting on the knuckle of the gauntlet's pointer finger, the reality stone hummed at attention. "Where do you keep them, I wonder?" Thanos said thoughtfully. "I don't think you keep them in your back pocket." Naruto forced himself to look away from the reality stone, looking Thanos in the eye as he responded. They're somewhere safe. Thanos nodded along. Oh, I'm sure they are somewhere far away from here. He shook his head as he began to walk around the blonde. Naruto followed suit, the two circling each other as the Titan continued. Wasteful. To have that kind of power at your disposal, and to squander it the way you do. Imagine what you could do with them, the things you never thought possible or imaginable at your fingertips. Naruto motioned to the glass ceiling, the orange and black layers of fire and smoke visible. Something like this? We both know you could do so much worse at this without the stones. The Mad Titan chided. I've been watching you, Naruto. I see so much of myself in you. It's a shame I didn't catch you sooner. The things we could have accomplished, the lives we could save. You do that often? Naruto questioned heatedly. Kidnap hapless kids and turn them into weapons? Weapons? Thanos questioned sincerely. They are my children. I take them in and show them what true strength is. Killing billions of innocent lives makes you strong? Naruto demanded. No wonder Gamera's so fucked up. I can't imagine what you filled her head with. I filled it with knowledge. Thanos retorted. Knowledge of what the universe needs to survive, and the kind of will that's necessary to save it from itself. Naruto narrowed his eyes, doing his best to keep calm. And the way to save it is to use the Infinity Stones as an executioner's blade on half the universe? Salvation cannot come without tremendous sacrifice so long as you're the one not sacrificing a damned thing. Thanos frowned at the accusation. There won't be any exceptions to my purge, not even myself. You and everyone else will have the same chance of life as I will. 50-50. Fair. There's another way. Naruto insisted. There's always another way if I snap my fingers. Thanos lifted up the Infinity Gauntlet, snapping his fingers to punctuate his point. And make it so that all of the planet's resources are replenished. No lesson will have been learned. I would simply be enabling future generations to squander what was given to them, at an even more detrimental scale. To sterilize half the universe's population is impossibly specific, along with any other concept a think tank could squander up. Population control is the only possible way. The only permanent way. With a flash of red, the gallery was swept away, replaced by an unfamiliar planet. Looking around proudly, Thanos gestured to the thriving civilization surrounding them. This is Centauri 6. Look how they thrive, how happy they are to know their future generations will know paradise. The entire universe could have this happiness. What's so wrong with that? Centauri 6 was beautiful. The bustling city washed over the two, passers-by going about their daily lives as two titans watched on. They smiled, they laughed. Naruto could feel the love and peace in the air, the acceptance of their tragedy. But what did it cost? What price are you willing to make everyone pay for this kind of happiness? Naruto asked quietly. Whatever it takes. Naruto paused, transfixed as the illusion faded away, the gallery now looming over them. The blonde ran his hand through his hair. There has to be another reason you'd be here. I can't imagine you'd stick around just to say hello. Thanos had stopped as well, staring the younger man down with a welcoming smile. I had honestly wanted to meet you, face to face. I'd hoped to convince you of where this was going. And where's that? Thanos flexed the Infinity Gauntlet, the Reality Stone humming dangerously. One way or another, we're going to clash over the stones you've collected. There will be no mercy on my part. I will set this universe ablaze. I will tear every galaxy apart, and I will conquer any planet that I think has the most remote idea of where they are. You can prevent that. If you don't give me the stones now, you'll wish you had by the time I pry them from your broken fingers. With a flex, Naruto exerted his chakra with enough force to crack the ground beneath him. Maybe I should use those stones to kill you, here and now. The Mad Titan smirked at the challenge. We both know you're too afraid to use them. Too afraid of what you could do, what you would do. Why else would you not use them? I can't help but wonder what you'd use them for, should that temptation ever drive you over the edge. I could always give it to you, as a reward. But you're not that kind of man. How do you figure? Naruto questioned, unable to retort to anything else. Because I'm not. A tense silence followed. Naruto glared up at the Mad Titan, and Thanos glowered down at the maelstrom. Raising up Nakama, Naruto twirled the blade lethargically at his side before sliding into his stance. Thanos responded in kind, pointing his hefty sword at his enemy. And with simultaneous roars, they charged with a charged bloodlust. Twang! Thor screamed as he threw Mjolnir into the Centurion giant's head, summoning it back to himself right before the hammer made contact. The centurion, having not expected the feint, was left wide open for the blast of lightning sent by the god of thunder. Skidding back from the force of the attack, the brute spasmed harshly as the lightning trickled along his singed armor. Raising his eyebrow, Thor cursed at the still mobile soldier. They'd been going at this for nearly 5 minutes now. Thor would knock him down, he'd get back up. Thor would zap him with some lightning, he'd walk it off. His eyebrow twitched in annoyance as the brute pushed past the lightning and continued his slow charge towards the Asgardian. Hefting Mjolnir in the air, he summoned a blast of thick lightning into the hammer. His arm vibrated from the escalating power surging within the hammerhead. As lightning began to crack and plunge into the ground, swirling around him, Thor smirked as Mjolnir's power boiled over. With a jerk, Thor punched Mjolnir forward, shooting a thin stream of lightning into the centurion's chest plate, zapping through the armor like wet paper. The lightning continued its arch, hitting the building behind the soldier, the impact forcing the front of the building to explode in a cloud of debris, burying the brute in rubble. Laughing haughtily, Thor flipped Mjolnir in his hand victoriously. That celebration came to an end as the centurion stumbled from beneath the rubble, dust and scraps of metal sliding off his body. Thor huffed, rotating Mjolnir into a blur. Hovering outside nowhere, Jessica paced back and forth in the Kushina's lower deck. "You're telling me that Uzumaki is fighting the guy we're trying to keep these stones from, and we're not fighting with him? That doesn't make any sense. Remember what was said about the reality stone?" the shadow clone asked. "Thanos could probably kill Thor without it, but with it he could kill him with just a snap of his fingers. Then why bring us along at all? Why make this team in the first place?" Ileana asked, leaning against the steps to the cockpit. "The boss can fight Thanos on his own and probably survive. But you've seen what Thanos has backing him up. He doesn't just have armies at his beck and call. He has planets." The clone reasoned gravely. "The boss needs help keeping the Infinity Stones safe. So he gets us?" Jessica questioned rhetorically. Shaking her head, she folds her arms under her chest. "He doesn't need a team, he needs an army. The boss is an army." He shot back, smiling awkwardly. "What he needs are friends." Jessica's mouth was agape, stunned. Ileana didn't hesitate, getting up from the stairs. "He's got one." While the shadow clone smiled back, Jessica frowned in thought, looking down at the still burning celestial skull in thought. Naruto grunted as he slid back from Thanos' heavy strike, shaking off the numbness in his arm. Even in Sage mode, Thanos was proving to be difficult to step up to. Though he was big and weighed down by that bulky armor, the Mad Titan moved at Naruto's level of dexterity. Neither had landed a full blow on the other, both working out the other's fighting style as they danced around each other. Thanos was brutal and deliberate. No move was wasted, no strike unnecessary. His armor was strangely sturdy, able to take a hit from his senjutsu-enhanced strikes just fine. Naruto thought he'd have an advantage over the Titan due to the violet-skinned man's choice of weapon, but the man twirled the thing around like was a broomstick. He swung it so hard down on Nakama, Naruto had to bleed chakra into the weapon to keep it from rolling. Thanos chuckled as he pushed Naruto back. "I'm going to kill you if you don't stop tiptoeing around, son." With a shove, he forced Naruto to stumble. Seeing an opening, Thanos swung his sword down, slashing deep into the blonde's shoulder boom. Naruto exploded, swallowing Thanos in fire and smoke. The cloud of smoke lingered as several Narutos dropped down around the plum, swirling their nakamas before charging into the cloud with the blades covered in lightning. As they submerged themselves in the cloud, a flash of red could be seen coming from the center, followed by an ominous sound of pure energy vibrating against metal. Hovering from above the cloud, Naruto narrowed his six-pad Sage mode enhanced eyes at the smoke as it was swallowed by a thin layer of red energy. That energy began to guide the smoke, breaking it apart into several hundred needle-like formations. And with a flex of the Infinity Gauntlet, those smoke needles shot out in a 360-degree arc, skewering every shadow clone in the room. Cursing, Naruto threw his hands up in the air, pushing out a wall of air that intercepted the smoke needles from turning him into a pincushion. As the needles broke apart into small spurts of smoke, Naruto shot forward like a bullet, zooming down at Thanos as he dropped a hammer kick down on the Mad Titan's head. Stumbling back, Thanos swung his sword at Naruto out of instinct. Grunting, Naruto ducked, the massive blade swiping over him. Lifting his hand up, the blonde activated his magnet release, focusing on the blade in its back swing. Naruto's eyes widened as it didn't take effect, forcing him to roll out of the blade's path. Twirling the sword as Naruto backed off, Thanos said, The reality stone truly is awesome in its versatility. To be able to cancel out the magnetism of an object, it's truly useful against a man with control over metal, don't you think? Narrowing his eyes, Naruto thought. So magnet releases out, awesome. From within the seal, Kurama nodded. Melt the bastard then, brat. Agreed. Flipping through several hand signs, Naruto charged forward. Using magnet release, Naruto unsheathed Nakama and sent the blade out to intercept Thanos while the blonde finished his sign work. While Nakama met Thanos with some blade work, Naruto quickly finished his hand signs, taking a deep breath as he thought. Wind release, great breakthrough. Thanos, seeing a thick wall of air charging towards him, knocked Naruto's weapon out of the way before putting his double-edged sword a whirlwind twirl, the blade becoming a blurred shield just in time to intercept the wall of wind. Clapping his hands together, Naruto smirked as the wall wrapped around Thanos, spinning and rotating into a dome. Taking another deep breath, the shinobi thought. Fire release, great fire annihilation. And with a heave, Naruto created a storm of fire. But with a flash of red, that fire and wind was quickly enveloped in a thin layer of red energy before transmuting into a cluster of bubbles. Naruto blinked in shock as another flash of red swept over the bubbles. In the corner of his eye, Naruto spotted a bubble float to the edge of Nakama's blade. As it touched the edge, the sword's razor-sharp edge popped the bubble with a boom. Flinching, the Naruto shadow clone flinched as a wave of memories came flooding in. Stumbling back, he gripped his forehead as he said, "The boss is fighting Thanos now." Ileana swallowed the frog in her throat. "Is he winning?" "It's pretty even, both are just testing the waters right now." The clone answered distractedly as he catalogued the memories. "Meaning?" the sorceress asked. "If this keeps going, they're gonna destroy nowhere." With a flex of the Infinity Gauntlet, the barrier surrounding Thanos broke away. Another flex, the fire and smoke from the explosion was funneled upwards out of the collapsed ceiling, dispersing into the air outside. Driving his sword into the ground, Thanos sat down on a boulder. That didn't even leave a scratch, did it? Pushing the rubble away, Naruto grunted from his spot on the ground. Other than being coated in dust, the blonde was the picture of health. Not even his uniform was damaged, though that was thanks to the vibranium weave. "You're pretty handy with that stone already," Naruto observed offhandedly. "That gauntlet's responsible, I'm guessing." The Mad Titan smirked as he examined the gauntlet. The Infinity Gauntlet was specifically crafted to handle the power of all 6 Infinity Stones. This took nearly 2 decades to forge, the complicated enchantments allowing for complete access to any of the stone's powers taking up most of that time. With this, I could take over galaxy after galaxy with a single stone. But you don't want the universe. Naruto filled in. Dusting himself off, he asked, "So what then? Every journey comes to an end. If you don't kill yourself in your genocide, what's the end to your story? Maybe open up a quaint little bakery? I'd buy some Thanos truffles. Or maybe you could start a bed and breakfast?" Chuckling, Thanos shook his head. "If you survive the purge, maybe I'll tell you." With a flex, Naruto summoned his 6 paths chakra cloak, the orange flames flickering angrily. Keeping still, Naruto said, "Do you honestly think the survivors of this purge would let you live that ending you want?" "It's not likely," Thanos admitted. "They're free to their anger. But my goal isn't about the consequences it has against me. It's about what it does for everyone. Thanos halted, feeling a sudden shift in the air. As the hairs on the back of his neck began to lift, the ground began to quake, the rubble around them vibrating violently. Eyes squinting as Naruto became as bright as a star, Thanos lifted his Infinity Gauntlet-covered arm to block the beams of light. As it relented, the Mad Titan could not help but admire the man before him. His black uniform now seemed to be made of a purple ember, the orange highlights now blazing gold. Sprawled along his collar and stomach sat the usual ceiling matrix, with a matching gold color. Naruto's hair, which was now a matching purple, danced lethargically as the shinobi took in the cosmic energy around him. Opening his eyes, Naruto bent his knees at the ready. Magnificent dash! Thanos stumbled back as Naruto drove his fist into the Titan's sternum, bending the man into his fist. Feeling the armor bend from the force, Thanos flexed the Infinity Gauntlet, red energy enveloping the ground beneath them. As he transmuted the ground to break them apart, the energy layer began to glitch, struggling to do as it was told. The Titan's confusion quickly shifted from confusion to realization. "You cancelled out the stone," he stated confidently. "This form, it's cosmic energy. That's the only way you could stop the reality stone. Naruto didn't respond, driving his free hand into Thanos' throat. Gasping as his windpipe nearly collapsed, the Titan stumbled back. Intercepting the bastard's transmutation with your own drained what little cosmic energy you'd gathered up, idiot! Kurama chastised. Kill him, now! I know! Naruto thought back as he tried to drill a kick into the Titan's stomach. Flexing the gauntlet, Thanos was swallowed in red energy. As Naruto's kick made contact, he phased through him like a ghost. His face contorted into rage and understanding, Thanos gasped out. No, you can't cancel out the stone. But you can counter my transmutation if you have the opening. Interesting. He points the infinity gauntlet towards the blonde. Let's test that. With a thrum, the reality stone lit up as energy surrounded the ground around them. Jumping in the air, Naruto evaded the 4 hands made of stone as they burst from the ground. The hands chased after him, their arms being fed by the reality stone. From the ever-growing arms, smaller hands emerged, creating a web of stone appendages as they swerved and danced after their target. Grunting as he bounced off the gallery's crumbling walls to dodge the persistent hands, Naruto threw his hands out as he released a giant burst of lightning. Skating along the stone hands, the lightning tore the appendages apart. Seeing his attack wasn't working, Thanos released his control over the hands, the now towering monoliths freezing in place. Landing on the most intact arm, Naruto shot down towards the ground, chakra-laced feet keeping him from falling off the vertical platform. Thanos didn't see the man coming, jumping in shock as Naruto suddenly appeared in his guard. Lifting his arms up to block the incoming kick, he was disappointed when Naruto again vanished in a blur. He couldn't even look around before the blonde appeared behind him, driving his foot into the Titan's kneecap. Roaring as he heard and felt the bone snap, Thanos dropped to his good knee. Appearing at Thanos' side in another blur, Naruto lifted his hand up as he summoned a truth-seeking ball. Forming it into a sword, Naruto gripped the blade made of pure energy before swinging down on the Titan's left forearm. And with one smooth stroke, the infinity gauntlet clattered to the ground with a heavy clang. Roaring in pain and rage, Thanos clutched at the amputated arm. As purple blood painted the ground beneath them in a violent splatter, Naruto calmly raised his truth-seeking blade to Thanos' throat. Yield! Naruto demanded. Huffing, his face contorting from agony, the Titan muttered. Just do it, son! Get it over with. You don't get the easy way out. The blonde explained. Thanos chuckled. Is this supposed to show that you're better than me? Mercy isn't sending me to the corner to think about my mistakes. Mercy is taking away the threat I possess. From where I'm standing, you're not much of a threat, I will always be a threat. Thanos retorted through clenched teeth. Change will always challenge the status quo, and a change is coming. We are change. If it's not me, they'll be after you soon enough. We are inevitable. Naruto took several breaths, in and out, in and out. Shoulders relaxed, Naruto lowers his blade. As Thanos looked up, pity in his eyes, Naruto looks away with pity in his own. Schling, Thanos grunts, the truth-seeking blade plunged into his chest. Smiling past the blood that was flowing down his lips, staining his teeth purple, the Titan gargled. Perhaps I underestimated you, son. As he goes limp, Naruto pulled the blade free, dispersing it into nothingness. From the corner of his eye, he sees a red light still shining. Frowning in thought, Naruto picks up the infinity gauntlet, the mad Titan's severed arms still sitting in place. The stone vibrated in its slot, the energy buzzing against the gauntlet's metal knuckle. Another flash of light caught his eye, coming from Thanos. Slowly, the Titan began to fade away, eaten away by the reality stone's red energy. As the last vestiges of Thanos evanesced, the infinity gauntlet in Naruto's hands followed suit. Letting go out of reflex, the gauntlet dropped to the ground. And just as it was about to hit the floor, it was gone. Looking down at where Thanos had once been, Naruto barely noticed Thor burst into the gallery. Seeing the blonde was alone, the frazzled Thor let his guard down, putting one hand on his hip as he caught his breath. Apologies for the wait. That centurion was a tough nut to crack. He paused. Not that I couldn't crack that nut. If I'd wanted to, I could have. He just disappeared before I could really let loose. Naruto ignored the Asgardian's boasting, as Kurama spoke over him. The bastard was an illusion all along. I noticed. The blonde thought with agitation. Walking up to Thor, he set his hand on the Asgardian's shoulder. Come on, we're leaving. Thor couldn't get a word out before they disappeared in a flash of yellow. Location, the sanctuary 2-inch. What will you do now, my lord? Kneeling within the sanctuary's throne room, the other cowered beneath the power exuding from his master. Shining over him like the tiniest of stars, the Reality Stone sat with the Infinity Stone, the gem vibrating dangerously. From his throne, Thanos looked over his new weapon and thought, "Even with the Reality Stone, I am no match against the Maelstrom. But my lord, you are the most powerful dash. The Maelstrom has 3 Infinity Stones, you fool. No being has dared wield such power. He is the most powerful being in the universe." The other, not wanting to argue with his master, nodded deeply. "As you say, my lord." From behind the other, Ebony Maw glided up to his master's side. "What would you have us do, father?" Smiling at his son's question, Thanos continued to stare into the Reality Stone's beautiful gem. "How do you break a man, my boy? You break what he loves. You do me proud, son." Chapter 29. Sweet dreams are made of this. 3 months after the sacking of Nowhere, date, August 29th, 2015. Location, Manhattan, New York City, New York. The official signing of the Soul Accords was officiated today by the United Nations at the Vienna International Center. 133 countries within the United Nations have approved and signed the accords today, with Secretary of State Thaddeus Ross delivering a speech on improving superhuman awareness within the governance of the world. Reading off his teleprompter, Will Adams of WHH World News spoke to the camera. Of the individuals asked to sign, Tony Stark, James Rhodes, and Natasha Romanoff of the Avengers were present. Turning his head to the next camera, Will continued. Notably absent was Steve Captain America Rogers and Sam Falcon Wilson. Captain Steve Rogers is considered the de facto leader of the Avengers by many, and Sergeant Sam Wilson was an active participant in the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D. Most commentators believed Captain Rogers would be the first to enlist in the United Nations Avengers, with many now questioning his motives for refusal. Also absent, Naruto Uzumaki. Though not considered an official member of the Avengers, many speculated on his appearance at the signing today. Though inside sources say he is not within the Soul Accord's umbrella of control, many believed he would share his support for the passing of the bill after assisting the cities struck by May 22nd. Recent polls show an outpour of support for the alien hero, while support for the Avengers has plummeted to an all-time low. Now looking back at the main camera, we'll start it again. In more local news, presidential candidate Imus Champion began his campaign in New York yesterday. Today he'll be stopping by Albany before heading into Buffalo. The television was muted, Jessica Drew looking down at Ileana with a raised eyebrow. "You really had to set up the TV instead of helping with the moving in?" Ileana shrugged, looking around the barren room. There was no furniture or decorations, nothing but a flat-screen TV sitting on the cold wooden floor. "I wanted to see who signed." "You already knew who was going to sign, Secretary Ross told us over a week ago," Jessica chastised. "Did you honestly think anyone would change their mind?" "I'd hoped," Ileana answered, turning the TV off. "Don't tell me you think Captain America should be considered a criminal." "He isn't considered a criminal, he's considered retired," Jessica corrected. "And unless he breaks that agreement, it'll stay that way." "As it should, the law's the law." Ileana rolled her eyes. "If you think Captain America will retire, you're delusional." "I'd rather think that than think he knowingly break the law," the brunette shot back. "Now come on, Uzumaki's clones can't do all the work." "Then what's the point of them then?" she grumbled with a complimentary stink-eye as she followed Jessica outside. Parked in front of the building sat a moving truck. In it were various kinds of furniture and other appliances that Shuri had graciously bought for them. Standing beside it, watching over his clones as they wheeled off the truck's occupants one by one, Naruto signed away several documents held up by the portly delivery man. "Address 895th Avenue, Manhattan, New York — you know you don't gotta read it out loud, right?" asked the delivery man. Ileana scowled. "You know you don't gotta be a dick, right?" With a final flourish, Naruto gave his last signature before passing the clipboard to the now irate man. "Thank you, sir." Grumbling, the man walked over to the driver's side of the truck as he inspected the signed documents. With the man's back turned, Naruto was free to give Ileana a hard deadpan as he whispered. "Seriously?" Ileana answered with a shrug. Scratching his chin, Naruto said, "So, what do you guys think?" "It's big," Jessica offered plainly. "Why is it so big again?" Their new home, a massive complex, took up the entire city block it sat on and stood 4 stories high. Thanks to a quick Wikipedia search by Ileana, Naruto learned it had previously been owned by Howard Stark in the 1950s but had been sold off and used as an office building for several political campaigns. How Shuri had gotten her hands on it, Naruto didn't want to ask, but in the end he was just happy to finally have an actual base of operations to work from. After all, Ileana's apartment wasn't exactly the best place to have meetings over the fate of the universe. Shuri might have gone a little overboard, Naruto admitted. But the bigger the better, I think. Anyways, she's gonna be coming over in an hour or so to set up some equipment in the basement, so don't be complaining when she's around. Jessica raised an eyebrow. Basement? A wide and excited smile stretched along Naruto's face. Wow! Standing in the basement of their new home, the three members of Infinity Watch looked over the wide open space before them. In one half of the room sat equipment and other necessities that had yet to be unpacked and put together. To their right, a dojo-like door blocked out the next room. Walking further into the room, Naruto said, "This will be our Bat Cave, or Arrow Cave, or Fortress of Solitude, whatever you want to call it." Jessica inspected the dojo doors, sliding them open to reveal a massive room, the familiar smell of a fighting mat hitting her nose. Past the training mat sat a large patch of grass and dirt, with a small koi pond in the center of the small indoor training field. On the right side of the room, a gym was separated by a glass wall, a plethora of gym equipment sitting in the corner needing to be unpacked. "We're gonna be training in here," Naruto said, stating the obvious, clearly proud of his makeshift training room. "Training?" Jessica wondered. Naruto nodded. "Team exercises, physical training, sparring, the works. We've all gotta get into proper shape before we can start working as an actual team." Ileana raised an eyebrow. "Most of us are already in shape dash, not the kind of shape we need to be." The shinobi corrected. "I want to get us in the kind of shape where I don't have to send you guys away if things get too crazy like it did on Nowhere. That means team building, strategy exercises, and a shit ton of sparring so we know how each other fights, inside and out. I was hoping we could get to some actual field work." Jessica admitted frustration under her breath. Smirking, the Uzumaki said, "If you want to get out there, let's get out there." "Let's, as in together?" "Sure, why not?" Naruto offered, jabbing his thumb over at Ileana's direction. "We can leave her to the unpacking, since she decided she was too good to help unload the truck," he said with his trademark grin. "Hey!" Ileana called out indignantly as Naruto led Jessica away. As they disappeared up the basement steps, the sorceress ran her hands through her hair as she looked at the boxes littered along the basement floor. Well shit. Holy shit dash. The proclamation was halted by the butt of a gun being jammed into the poor man's cheek, dropping him to the ground with a thud. "Everybody get down on the ground, now." Everyone's attention was drawn to the violent shout, the startled bank patrons gasping when they realized it was Naruto Uzumaki standing a few feet in front of the bank teller. The notorious non-Avenger was holding his arm up in the air, pointing his hand towards the tellers menacingly. A look of warning etched in his face, Naruto shouted, "I'll blow you all away if any one of you makes a move I don't like." A robust man with a receding hairline, seemingly the manager, took a shaky step forward. "Mister, you don't have to hurt any dash, shut the fucking hell up." Naruto screamed. "You watch the news? I could kill you without even a blink. Now, all of you not behind the counter get on the fucking ground right fucking now." "Yes, okay, we understand, sir." The manager stuttered out, motioning to his employees to comply. "You want some money? Is that what you want? 'Cause we'll give it to you, no problem. Just, please take it easy. No bundles, just singles. I don't want one goddamn bundle of bills in this bag or I'll kill everyone in this fucking room." Naruto explained, pulling the duffel bag from around his shoulder and tossing it to the nearest teller. Everyone was now laying on their bellies with their limbs spread out wide, one particular woman quivering in fear as she looked up at the intimidating figure that was Naruto Uzumaki. The man was wearing an all-black business suit, a pair of leather gloves, and she could swear that the outline of a handgun was sticking out from the waistline of his pants. Catching his eye, the woman jolted her head back down to stare down at the ground with a whimper. Naruto kept his eyes peeled out around him, half his attention on the duffel bag as it was passed among the tellers, each stuffing all the money in their registers inside as quickly as humanly possible. After the fifth teller, the bag finally found its way into the manager's hands. "There. That's all of it," quivered the manager, beads of sweat gliding down his face as he presented the now stuffed duffel bag. Violently grabbing the bag, Naruto quickly ruffled through it. Seemingly satisfied, he gave as charming smile as he could muster. Thank you all, it's been a pleasure. If anyone follows after me, I'll find each and every one of you and kill you as slowly as I know how. Again, it's been a pleasure. Walking backwards, Naruto kicked the bank's door open before sliding outside. Panning over the busy streets of Queens, he smiled at the lack of police. Hefting the bag up over his shoulder, Naruto began a swift walk towards his car. Reaching up for the car's passenger side door handle, he jumped as a thick glue-like substance shot onto his hand, sticking it to the car with a loud thwomp. Jerking his now stuck hand to try and pry it free, Naruto jumped again as someone jumped down onto the roof of his car from above. Wow, the whole hero gig must not pay as much as I thought it would if you gotta rob banks. This is like the third bank this week, right? What a busy guy you are. Grimacing at the mocking tone, Naruto raised an eyebrow at the strangely dressed Samaritan. Judging from their height and body shape, he could guess he was a young man, a kid if anything. He was covered from head to toe in a getup he could only call sweats and pajamas, the red and blue contrasting sharply and the sewn-on spider logo forcing an eyebrow to be raised. His face was covered entirely by a mask of the same material, with a pair of rigged goggles covering his eyes. The squinting white eyes glared down at him, the kid's head tilted in a mocking gesture. You know who I am? Naruto asked. The kid shrugged. Oh yeah, big fan. Well, I was. Kinda hard to like a guy who robs banks for a living, you know? Naruto couldn't hold back his smirk when he realized the kid was making his voice deeper to try and sound older. Ever heard of Jesse James? He offered offhandedly. Frowning, he continued. If you know who I am, you know what I can do. Just forget about this and I won't kill you, kid. Who's the kid? The kid wondered, his voice getting an octave deeper, though the unmistakable voice crack couldn't be ignored. And sorry, buddy, but that's not gonna happen. Fine. Naruto breathed harshly. With a hard pull and a relaxing of his hand, Naruto pulled his hand out from the glove that covered it, freeing himself before reaching into his waistband to pull out the gun he'd stowed away. But the kid seemed to have some kind of sixth sense, because Naruto had barely touched the grip of his gun before he back-flipped off the car and took cover on the other side. When no gunshots rang off, the kid peeked out from his side of the car to see Naruto sprinting down the sidewalk before turning sharp into an ally on his right. God damn it! The kid cursed at himself as he jumped up like a spring. Naruto cursed as he looked over his shoulder to see the kid running after him, quickly catching up. With a grunt, he jumped up onto a dumpster, using that as a springboard to reach the fire escape just above it. With a heave, his muscles straining due to the added weight of the bag, Naruto pulled himself up onto the fire escape. He didn't look back as he began to scale up the escape steps. Eventually reaching the roof, he caught his breath as he looked around for a way down. His search was cut short by a shout from behind. Hey, I thought you could walk up walls and stuff. Figures your Wikipedia page would be full of it. Jumping for the third time, Naruto turned to see the kid leaning up against the ledge of the building, several feet away from the fire escape. How'd you get up here? Naruto asked, perturbed. Oh, well, I can actually climb up walls and stuff. Pretty nifty, actually. The kid's artificial eyes narrowed as he got off the ledge. Wanna see what else I can do? Not really. Naruto declined, dashing off towards the opposite side of the building. Picking up momentum, he jumped over the gap with a heave. Landing with a roll, he got back up to his feet and continued his run. As the man ran, the kid scratched at his masked scalp. Can't he fly? Shrugging breezily, he quickly gave chase. Huffing as he came up to another ledge, Naruto repeated the same jump from before. Landing with another roll, he stumbled as he came up to his feet. That stumble let him see that the kid had easily jumped the space between two buildings back and was sprinting at him at full speed. Reaching the next ledge, he skidded to a halt when he saw the large gap between. Cursing, he began to look for a fire escape to climb down. Spotting one, he was one step in when the kid landed in a crouch a few feet away. Springing up straight, the kid fired off several shots of the sticky substance from his wrists at rapid fire. Evading them, Naruto threw caution into the wind and went in close for a solid jab towards the kid's face. Again, it was like he had a sixth sense. Ducking under the punch, the kid gave an awkward kick that Naruto blocked by crossing his arms in front of his chest. Skidding back from the force of the blow, the blonde shook his now numb arms to try and get their feeling back. You know, you're not as awesome as I thought you'd be. With everything I've seen on YouTube, I thought you'd be doing sane kooky alien stuff by now. the kid observed, his head tilted in thought. Never meet your heroes, I guess. Naruto didn't retort, instead going in for a brutal hammer fist that the kid avoided. Undeterred, Naruto continued their brawl, with the blonde doing his best to land a hit and the kid avoiding him at every turn. Finally, after finding an immediate opening, Naruto drove his fist into the kid's sternum. Coughing from the hit and stumbling back, the kid almost reflexively fired off a shot into Naruto's face, nailing him in the forehead. Rolling back and landing in a crouch, the kid's eyes squinted in pain as he recovered, only for them to widen when they landed on Naruto's face. Naruto had harshly pulled off the substance, his skin now warped in an inhumanly distorted manner. You ruined my mask. Naruto grunted, shifting it back into place. Though it wasn't as morphed as before, it was still more loose than the kid could stomach. The kid's artificial eyes narrowed, his head tilted curiously. You're not Naruto Uzumaki, are you? I suppose one could say that. But with this face, this voice, who cares to know the difference? The impostor said with a nonchalant shrug. He kills and ruins lives, what's a few bank robberies added to his crimes? Seeming no longer see the point in continuing the charade, the impostor began to peel away the mask. Under it revealed no face at all, just another mask. Only this one was featureless, plain white and smooth, leaving everything to the imagination. The kid's head tilted further. A mask under a mask? That's a little Scooby-Doo, isn't it? I'm glad the last thing you got to say was a joke. Not a lot of people have that luxury. The impostor said wistfully as he pulled out his gun. As he swung it around, and his finger wrapped along the trigger, a figure dropped down behind him. Before he could realize it, the impostor was put in a tight chokehold. The last thing he felt before consciousness left him was a jolt of electricity charging into his body. Holding the limp man in her arms, Jessica sighed as she let him drop in a heap to the ground. Frowning at the masked man slumped below her, she said, Are you gonna come out, or do I have to handle everything? The kid's eyes showed his confusion. What dash? I keep forgetting that you can zap people like that. The kid jerked in surprise, his senses going haywire as he felt someone suddenly appear behind him. Turning sharply, the kid took a few steps back when he saw Naruto Uzumaki standing over him, looking over his shoulder at Jessica and the unconscious impostor. Jessica, who was wearing her Infinity Watch uniform, sighed. It's not a zap. It's a bioelectrical discharge. Semantics. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. At the sound of encroaching police sirens, he said, Let's get this guy down to the sidewalk. He looked to Jessica. You got any handcuffs? Where would I keep handcuffs in this thing? Jessica asked, referring to her skin-tight bodysuit. No one told you that you had to wear it. Naruto shot back with a dismissive wave of the hand. Scratching his scalp, he looked to the kid. Hey kid, you got some handcuffs? The kid straightened at attention. Oh, no? Sorry. It's alright, dash. Naruto was interrupted by the sound of a wet squelch, his eyebrows shooting up as what looked like webs fired out from the kid's wrist. The webbing shot out and enveloped the impostor's hands, wrapping around and binding them tightly. Both Naruto and Jessica's attention went from the bound hands to the kid, who was shifting awkwardly under the scrutiny. Taking stock of the kid's outfit for the first time, and noticing the spider symbol sewn into the torso of his shirt, Naruto asked, What are you, some kind of Spider-Man or something? I guess? The now dubbed Spider-Man admitted. Naruto chuckled. Well, Spider-Man meets Spider-Woman, he said, motioning to Jessica, who had lifted the impostor up over her shoulder. That is not my name, Jessica grumbled, beginning to walk over to the ledge of the building. Oh, it's definitely your name now. Naruto cackled, following after her. Realizing they were leaving him behind as they jumped off the ledge of the building, Spider-Man shouted, Hey, wait for me! Jumping off the roof, he quickly fired a line of webbing towards the corner of the adjacent building. With a jolt, the webbing caught him in his free fall. Giving the line some slack, Spider-Man slowly descended to the streets below. Naruto, who'd heard the kid call out to them, watched as he awkwardly dropped to the ground in amusement. As Spider-Man caught up, so too did a duo of police officers, pulling up in their squad car with the sirens blaring. Stepping out, the officers took the impostor from Jessica, heaving him into the back of the car. Pulling out a pad, one of the officers gave the three a wary look. I'ma need to see your guy's registration, they ain't registered. The other officer answered for them as he wrote into a pad of his own. Don't you recognize them? That's Maelstrom and Agent Drew. They're good to go. Right, muttered the first officer, though he didn't seem too happy with it. His scrutiny shifted to Spider-Man. What about him? Spider-Man shifted nervously. He's with us. Naruto answered, Spider-Man's head shooting up in a shocked confusion. Really? The second officer asked, suspicious. You and her and your friends aren't to be bothered, but this kid wasn't a part of the list we were given. If he ain't registered, we gotta take him in with us. He's new, was Naruto's answer firmly, daring the man to challenge him further. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have gotten whoever this guy is. Who he is isn't any of your dash. His name's Dmitry Smerdyakov. Jessica answered, much to the officer's displeasure. He's been on Interpol's most wanted list for nearly a decade. His M.O. is disguising himself as a celebrity while committing a string of robberies. You'd be surprised how much more compliant people are when they're getting robbed by someone like Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio. Seeing the cat was out of the bag, the second officer exhaled. He's been running around Queens and Harlem robbing banks, looking like Mr. Uzumaki here. He eyed Naruto with a small smile. His impression of you is pretty good. Good number of people thought it was actually you for a bit. But once we got word from Interpol, we knew what was what. I guess I should be flattered. Naruto muttered flatly, looking at the now conscious Dmitri. The man was glaring a hole through the car window that divided him from the outside world, his eyes boring into Naruto like hot knives. Several questions later, and the officers carted Dmitri off. When the patrol car was out of sight, Jessica turned her attention to Spider-Man. A hand on her hip, she looked at him with scrutiny. You're not registered. It wasn't a question. Spider-Man looked one wrong word away from hightailing it out of there. His eyes widened comedically as he stuttered. Well, the thing is Jessica. Naruto cut off. Having grabbed her attention, the blonde wordlessly shooed her away with a nod of his head. Though she looked ready to argue, she held her tongue. With a grunt, she jumped up the side of the building and quickly scaled it like her moniker suggested. If Spider-Man was impressed that she could climb walls like he could, he didn't show it. His full attention was on Naruto, his stance showing that he really didn't know what to do. Naruto, who'd been eyeballing the kid with the same kind of scrutiny as Jessica, finally broke the tension with his patented smile. Hungry? On the roof of an apartment building a couple blocks over, Naruto leaned on the roof's ledge as he finished off his recently purchased hot dog. Looking away from the bustling city of Queens, he silently watched the kid eat, the boy sitting on the ledge next to him, his legs kicking back and forth seemingly without a care in the world. How old are you, kid? Naruto finally asked. Spider-Man, his mask partially pulled up so he could eat his hot dog, coughed mid-swallow. Clearing throat, he spoke in a voice that was suspiciously deeper than it had been back on the other rooftop. 18. Right. Naruto drawled, taking another bite from his hot dog. Swinging around so he was facing Naruto, Spider-Man tilted his head. So, you're really Naruto Uzumaki? The guy people call Maelstrom and stuff? Naruto chuckled. Yeah, that's me. Huh. The kid said as he took another bite. What? Well, Spider-Man muttered, his mouth full. I guess I just thought you'd be a little more intimidating or something. Naruto barked out a single laugh. You want me to do something a little flashy? Prove I'm legit? Well, I've had a pretty interesting day, what with the Naruto Uzumaki imposter and all. I don't think you can blame me for wanting some proof. Spider-Man argued lamely before taking the final bite of his hot dog. Fine. Naruto breathed. Extending his hand, he calmly palmed a raisin gan. Spider-Man's eyes widened as far as they could. Whoa. He breathed, chunks of meat slipping past his gaping mouth. And as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. Good enough? Yeah, you're the real deal. The kid conceded, amazed at the display. Balling up the foil in his hand, Spider-Man pulled his mask back into place. All right, now your turn. The shinobi said. How old are you really? Spider-Man fidgeted. I told you, I'm Dash. Going off your height and size, and the actual pitch of your voice, I'd say you're around 14, give or take. Naruto guessed. The kid's shoulders slumped in defeat. I'm 15. Naruto smiled as the kid stopped deepening his voice. So, what's a pajama-wearing 15-year-old doing fighting crime on the streets of Queens? They're not pajamas. Spider-Man retorted, his artificial eyes showing his indignation. It's a hoodie and some sweatpants. It's not like there's a superhero superstore for me to go to. Still doesn't answer why a 15-year-old kid is out in a mask stopping bank robbers. Naruto shot back. I don't know, why do you do it? Spider-Man asked guardedly. And you should know why I wear a mask. The blonde nodded. No one's gonna let an underage kid become a registered mask, no matter how impressive he might be. Spider-Man perked up. You really think I'm impressive? He asked, hopeful. Naruto laughed. Yeah, kid, you've definitely got my interest. Puffing his chest out proudly, the kid rested his hands on his waist. Yeah, well, you can't really fight for shit though. The boy immediately deflated. Come on, man. He whined. Who taught you how to throw a punch anyway? Naruto asked with a lopsided smile. My uncle did, Spider-Man grumbled, his arms falling to his sides. What's wrong with how I fight? Well, for one, your stance is all wrong. Naruto answered. After a second of thought, he said, Here, let me show you. Shifting his feet and bending his knees, the blonde lifted his arms up in front of him. Spider, realizing the older man wanted to mimic him, slid into a similar stance. Like this? He asked awkwardly. Loosen up a little. Naruto said, bouncing on his toes to accentuate the point. Okay. He muttered, rolling his shoulders as he did what the man said. The shinobi nodded. What's your dominant hand? The right. Naruto nodded. Alright, so as you swing your right first, lean in with your shoulder. As you punch, rotate your fist. Got it? Okay. Hit me. Naruto said, standing at an arm's length away. For real? Spider-Man questioned, his stance lowering momentarily. I hit pretty hard. Don't hold back. Naruto insisted firmly, giving a reassuring smile. Releasing a nervous breath, Spider-Man nodded. Getting back into the stance Naruto showed him, the boy began to bounce on his toes, his shoulders relaxed as his hands raised up to protect his chin. With a grunt, Spider-Man sent a jab towards Naruto's chin. The blonde easily swatted it away. Again. He demanded. Taken aback by the ease in which Naruto deflected the punch, Spider-Man gave a hesitant nod before getting his arms back up. With another grunt, Spider-Man sent a jab towards Naruto's chin. This time, Naruto grabbed his wrist. Pulling Spider-Man in, Naruto dipped his shoulder down into the kid's stomach, flipping him over his shoulder. Spider-Man hissed in pain as the air was knocked out of him from the landing. Rolling onto his stomach, he looked up at the smirking blonde. You okay, kid? Naruto asked. Oh yeah, totally fine. He wheezed, slumping up to his hands and knees. As Naruto offered a helping hand, Spider-Man took it gratefully. Your uncle ever show you how to take a hit? Asked Naruto as he lifted the kid to his feet. No, he said, rubbing his bruised back. Maybe you should ask him? Naruto offered. When the kid didn't answer, he said, Or maybe I could. The boy brightened up. Really? Naruto shrugged. Sure, if you want. Yes. Spider-Man shouted excitedly, though he quickly calmed down, awkwardly trying to save face as he muttered. I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. Letting it slide, Naruto walked over to the edge of the roof, leaning against the ledge. So if you're 15, shouldn't you be in school or something? I'm on summer vacation. Spider-Man answered as though it were obvious. Even I know summer vacation ended a few weeks ago. Naruto accused, tilting his head. Skipping school, kid? Well, Spider-Man began to stutter. Naruto lifted his hands placatingly. Hey, believe me, I get it. You do? Sure. Naruto nodded, folding his arms across his chest. But then again, I wasn't exactly the smartest kid around. He paused. Can't really say that about you though, huh? He asked, looking at the kid's web shooters. Spider-Man's eyes widened in surprise. Looking down in what Naruto assumed shame, he kicked at the roof's gravel. You could say that. Where do you go to school? Naruto asked. Midtown School of Science and Technology, he answered, rubbing the back of his neck. Really? Wow. Naruto blurted out, impressed. Well, come on. There's still enough time in the day for you to get back. Seriously? Spider-Man asked, exasperated. Trust me, kid, you'll thank me later. Naruto insisted. Spider-Man nodded, though from his body language he didn't seem to agree. Well, what am I supposed to say when I show up? Naruto smiles. Leave that to me. I don't know about this. Naruto sighed, the man leaning against the side of a porta-potty that sat at the edge of a construction site. The crew was working on a building that had been hit during May 22nd, an Ultron drone having detonated just outside the lobby. For the millionth time, your secret's safe with me, Naruto reassured. Come on, kid, just get out here already. Alright. The porta-potty's door creaked open. Stepping out, Spider-Man fixed his backpack onto his shoulder. The teen didn't look particularly special. If he were in the middle of a crowd, he wouldn't stick out any more than anyone else. His brunette hair was combed back and pressed down tight, giving him what he recognized to be mask hair, a more serious case of hat hair. No longer wearing his homemade suit, the kid had on a blue t-shirt with the chemical symbols for oxygen and magnesium scrawled along the chest. Reaching out his hand, Naruto said, Naruto Uzumaki. Spider-Man hesitated before finally taking the hand. Wesley Crusher. Nice to meet you, Wesley. Naruto greeted, clapping his hand onto the boy's shoulder. Guiding him along, Naruto said, Now come on, you've wasted enough time complaining about me ruining your secret identity. Do you really gotta say it like that? A thought struck him. Hey, how am I supposed to get a hold of you for the training and stuff? Do you have like a Maelstrom phone I can call or dash? How about you give me your number and we'll go from there? Naruto cut off. And Maelstrom phone? Really? Wesley shrugged. Hey man, I don't know how this professional superhero gig works. Cut me some slack, geez. As Naruto gave Wesley his phone, the blonde said, Well, here's a tip. If it's from a cartoon from the 2000s, it's usually a safe bet that that's not how it works. Should I be jotting this down or dash? Here's another tip. Naruto cut off helpfully as he got his phone back. Uzumaki boot camps don't require notes. You should memorize every gem I drop. Wesley nodded. And how will I know it's a gem or not? What do you think? Naruto asked while pocketing the phone. Just assume everything is a gem? You learn fast, Kohai. The blonde complimented sagely. So, can I call you sensei or dash? No, Naruto said immediately. Don't be lame, kid. Wesley rolled his eyes as they walked up to the bus stop. Oh, so it's cool to call me Kohai, but I'm lame for calling you sensei? Makes total sense. One bus ride later, Naruto and Wesley stood in front of Midtown, Naruto's hand still on the kid's shoulder. Walking inside, Naruto waved to a few gawking students, the kids whispering to each other while pointing at the blonde not so discreetly. Stepping into the office, Naruto drummed his fingers on the counter of the desk while the secretary finished typing into her computer. What can I do for you? She asked, not bothering to look up from her screen. I'm here to drop off one of your students. Naruto replied, continuing to drum his fingers as he leaned into the counter. The secretary looked up, her eyes widening when she saw who was standing at the other side of the desk. Blinking rapidly, she stammered, I'm sorry, what? Naruto pointed his thumb at Wesley. I'm here to drop off a student. She said, gathering herself as she noticed Wesley. Ah, Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker, huh? Naruto pondered, raising an eyebrow at the younger boy who dipped his head sheepishly. Parker. Naruto and Parker turned to see a well-dressed man of Asian descent walking out of an office at the back of the room. As he reached the two, he folded his arms across his chest sternly. It's 10 o'clock, Parker. Mind telling me why you're late again? Well, dash. Parker began to stutter. I can answer that, I think. Naruto interrupted brightly, getting the other man's attention. A look of recognition came from the man, though he shook it off as he asked, And how is that, Mr. Maelstrom? The blonde blinked at the formality, but nevertheless kept his winning smile. Naruto's fine, Mr. Morita, Principal Morita. The school's principal answered. Now, how is it that you know Mr. Parker, exactly? He asked suspiciously. Well, I wouldn't really say I know the kid, I just happened upon him when he was in trouble. Naruto said. Trouble? Morita questioned, concern managing to seep into his voice as his eyes drifted to Parker. I was making my rounds through Queens when I saw Mr. Parker over here getting mugged by what looked to be middle school girls. Naruto lied, fighting the grin that wanted to come up at Peter's mortified expression. Morita raised an eyebrow at Parker, wordless asking for confirmation. Parker swallowed his pride as he muttered. Yeah, that's what happened. The principal soaked that in, resting his hands on his hips sternly. Well, I suppose we should call the police dash. Oh, I took care of that. Gave the girls a talking to myself. Very inspiring, incredibly heartfelt. The kid isn't gonna have a problem with them again. Naruto turned to Peter, the teen avoiding eye contact with Morita. Right, Parker? Morita looked like he wanted to argue, but seemed satisfied that Naruto had handled the situation. Alright, Parker, go ahead and get to class. I'll talk with you later, he said firmly. Parker nodded, stepping past the principal to give Naruto a handshake as he said, Thanks again for helping me out. Anytime, Parker. Naruto teased, watching as the kid flinched sheepishly before walking out of the office. Naruto turned when the man next to him coughed gently into his hand. Raising an eyebrow as Morita stared him down, his arms folded over his chest stiffly, the blonde waited for the stern man to speak. And as a bubble of nerves built up into Naruto's chest, the principal finally spoke. Mind if I get an autograph? After an autograph or two and several pictures taken, Naruto was finally able to walk out of school. Passing the track and field, the blonde paused as his phone began to vibrate. Tapping the screen to answer the call, Naruto muttered into the mic. Hello? He pauses as a muffled voice comes through before speaking. Yeah, sure, I can be there. Are you sure you want dash? He's cut off as the voice comes through again. Naruto nods to no one. Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, yeah, I'll be there. As he walks along the track and field's ticket booth, he waves to a flock of students sitting in the stands as he says to himself, You can come out now. Landing deftly behind him, Jessica straightened as she asked, How long did you know? Oh, come on, Jess. Naruto drawled lightly, not bothering to stop walking as he continued. You never left. You've been tailing me since I asked you to scram. Jessica follows after him, not fazed that he'd been aware the entire time. How was the hot dog? Is that really what you want to ask, or are you trying to lower my guard with bullshit questions? Naruto demanded plainly, stuffing his hands in his pockets. I'm not as dumb as my file says. I wouldn't know anything about that official shield file of one Uzumaki, Naruto. The man began to recite in a bored tone. Extremely powerful on a level that is, as of now, unseen in its scope and measure. Should be considered a threat at all times, keep up a constant guard and vigilance as a precaution. Only notable weakness is a lack of earthly knowledge and overall intelligence. Easily distracted by small talk and accusations against his home planet And what does my file say about me? Jessica interrupted. Naruto paused, allowing the woman to catch up. What did you want to ask, really? As they walked side by side, Jessica sighed. Can we at least get out of here? People are staring. Looking around, students out and about were indeed staring at the uniform-clad Spider-Woman, several phones taking video and pictures that would likely spread like wildfire. Grabbing her shoulder, the two vanished. Ileana huffed as she set down another box on the kitchen table. Thanks to some clones who'd stayed behind, the main floor of the mansion was furbished save for a random box here or there. Opening the box, she began to pull out a stack of plates. Ding dong, Ileana looked up, a Naruto shadow clone peeking his head out from behind the kitchen doorway. Who is it? He wondered. The sorceress shook her head as she walked past him. How the hell should I know? Magic? Sorcery? Gobbledygook? The clone guessed as he set down a box in the living room, two other clones setting up the television stand. She ignores them as she reached the door. Cracking it open, she takes a peek to outside. On the other side of the door, Owen Reese waited awkwardly. Hey, you're Alyssa, right? Ileana. The blonde corrected, swinging the door open welcomingly. Welcome to home base. Right. Owen muttered, taking in the large building. While Owen was distracted, Ileana noticed the suitcase by his side. Is the rest of your luggage coming later or? This is it. Owen answered, withdrawn. Right. She said slowly. Shaking it off, she put on a welcoming smile. Well, at least you don't have a lot to unpack. Come on in. Stepping inside, Owen looked around in wonder at the vast interior. While dozens of Naruto clones meandered about with their individual tasks, the two took a tour of the mansion. And there's the living room. Our benefactor bought all of the furniture and appliances for us. Haven't really gotten the chance to test them out yet, honestly. Ileana informed, heading towards the stairs. The kitchen and dining room is just down the hall. Naruto's got some clones doing some grocery shopping, so we might not have the best selection for a little while. But if you've got any requests, just let us know the next time any of us go out. Do you have a drink that you like? Kool-Aid, I guess. Owen answered. When Ileana gave him an amused look, he muttered. Prison doesn't exactly have a whole lot of options other than water and Kool-Aid. At least I think it was Kool-Aid. A kid a cell over thought it was Flavor Aid, but he was a bit of a nihilist. You got a flavor you like? Ileana asked, wanting to shift the subject. Owen shrugged. Anything but grape. I hate grape. Why? She asked, expecting a simple, I just do dash. Jonestown. Ileana paused as they reached the second level. All right, she said slowly. Owen walked past her. So, which is my room? The wide hallway was decorated with doors on either side, 8 on this floor alone. The floor above held 2 additional guest bedrooms, but it mainly acted as a decently large hangar bay. Apparently, Howard Stark was an avid helicopter pilot. Well, Naruto called the room closest to us on the left. I've taken the first room to the right, and Jessica's is next to Naruto's, so dash, got it, I think I got it from here. As he headed towards the room on the far left side of the hallway. Gotta unpack and stuff. Are you sure dash? Ding dong, Ileana stops, groaning in agitation as Owen disappeared into his new room. Coming, she calls out. As she hurries down the steps, the doorbell is rung for a second time. As she reaches the final step, a third ring is delivered. And as Ileana grips the door, a fourth is rung. I said I'm coming, Ileana insisted harshly before swinging the door open, only to blink at who's on the other side. Okoye raised a delicate eyebrow. Her posture straight and expression apathetic, the general nodded. Which? She greeted. The woman had foregone her Dora Milaje uniform, instead wearing a red and black checkered jacket, black dress pants, and maroon flats. Baldy. Ileana fired back. As the two got nose to nose, a familiar voice broke their stare off. Ms. Magic, said Blonde blinked as a cheerful girl popped up from behind Okoye. The girl was oddly dressed, with most of her head covered in a head wrap and her eyes covered by an overly large pair of Adventure Time sunglasses. After taking her in, Ileana finally recognized the younger girl. Shuri, right? She answered with an animated nod. Well, it's nice to meet you, the woman greeted, extending her hand to shake the girl's. Only to be stopped by Okoye, who gently stepped in her way. Please do not touch the princess, she requested bluntly. Dash. Before Ileana could fully respond, Okoye stepped past her into the house. So, this is the house the princess bought for you, the general observed, looking around deftly. I see she went a little overboard. Again. Overboard? This is even better than I thought, Shuri exclaimed, trailing after the general, only to stop as she passed Ileana. And she can shake my hand, General. Lighten up. Ileana took the girl's outstretched hand, smiling as she shook it. Thank you, by the way, for all of this, she says, motioning around the house. The princess has a rule about working in style, Okoye muttered, watching the shadow clones move around as they did their tasks. And I must admit, it is stylish. For an American design. Shuri looked around excitedly. So, where's my lab? Downstairs, Ileana answered, motioning for the two to follow her. Come on, I'll take you. Naruto and Jessica stood on the rooftop he and Parker had been on not an hour before thanks to a Horatian tag planted on the rooftop door. Jessica waited patiently as Naruto watched the city move around them. Horns blared, sirens whistled, people murmured, and tires whirred. While Jessica easily tuned it out, she watched as Naruto seemed to struggle with the incessant scream of the city. But just as he seemed overwhelmed, he pushed it aside to ask. You had a question? He's a little young, don't you think? She asked, getting straight to the point. Naruto tilted his head. How old were you when you started? 18, she answered. Well, I was 12. 15 splits the difference, Naruto said. Jessica narrowed her eyes. And because of that, you think he's ready for what you expect of us? Do you honestly think he could have handled what happened on Nowhere? Or Seoul for that matter? He's a boy. I never said I was going to make him a part of the team, Naruto shot back. What then? Jessica demanded. Naruto sighed, slouching forward as he set his elbows on his knees. Looking up at her, he said, I don't know how long you've been involved with this kind of thing, but I've seen more than enough kids like him to know his story. He's not gonna stop, Jess. Me, you, the Avengers, the government, it doesn't matter who tells him to stop. Because he won't. He's gonna keep going until he makes it or breaks it. And almost every time, kids like him break. He needs someone to show him the way. To keep him from making the same stupid mistakes we all make. 'Cause if not, one of these days he's just gonna be some dead kid on the pavement. And what if you getting involved is what gets him hurt? Or worse? Jessica challenged. Because then it isn't on him, it's on you. I'd rather give the kid what he needs than let him fend for himself, was Naruto's retort. Don't worry, I'm well aware that he's my responsibility. Jessica shifted on her feet, momentarily thinking over the man's words. Finally, she folded her arms under her chest. All right, Uzumaki. So long as you understand that the boy is in your hands. Getting up with a sigh, Naruto ran his hand over his hair. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell Ross or your superiors about the kid. You're joking, Jessica stated sternly. Naruto began to walk towards her. Do I look like I'm joking? The woman met him halfway. You can't expect me, I expect you to do what you're told. Naruto shouted, nose to nose with her, as he glowered down at the unflinching woman. Blinking, Naruto realized he'd lost his cool. Taking a deep breath, he forced his tone to be calm. You go on and on about him being a kid. Well, guess what? If you tell Ross, or the CIA, you're feeding him to the wolves. He's under their radar. They don't care about some kid swinging around Queens when they've got a Norse god tearing up London, robots blowing up cities, secret teams and organizations out the wazoo, and super soldiers making Washington, D.C. a war zone. They won't notice him if he doesn't make a lot of noise. But if you put that bullseye on his back, if you force him down that path, what happens to him is on you just as much as it's on me. Can you handle that? Can you turn that kid into a soldier? Speaking from personal experience, it doesn't end well. Jessica glared up at the man, only faltering slightly. I can't say nothing. It would look suspicious. Tell them I handled it, leave it as unspecific as possible. Naruto offered, though from his tone it came off as a command. Telling the truth with as little of the truth as possible. The woman considered, seemingly impressed. I didn't think you had it in you. Leaning back, Naruto turned away. You're not the only one who's got a thing for being sneaky. I thought you were better than me at it, though. Isn't being a spy your whole, thing? What with being an international woman of mystery and all? I may be whatever it is you just called me, but espionage wasn't what I was sent for. If they had a mission, information wasn't the objective. Jessica admitted offhandedly, staring into the man's back. Rubbing out the crick in his neck, Naruto muttered. Right, that leaves Plan B. I wasn't aware that Plan B was synonymous with assassination. And I didn't know you didn't know when someone was trying to be subtle out of courtesy. Naruto shot back, pulling his phone out of his pocket. Come on, we're late. Confused, Jessica asked. Late for what? The press conference. What? Owen sighed as he placed the final set of folded socks into the dresser of his new room. It was bigger than he was used to. It was about 3 times the size of his entire apartment back in Winchester, though admittedly that wasn't anything to brag about. It was a step up from the cells he'd occupied for years, so he couldn't complain. Pulling out a pack of cigarettes from his jacket pocket, Owen pried a lone stick out before bringing it to his lips. The tip was suddenly wrapped in a flash of energy. As soon as it popped up, it was gone, the cigarette lit. As he took a drag, a voice came from behind him. Think you could take that outside? Owen jumped, coughing on the smoke he swallowed. Turning around, he saw a Naruto clone standing in the corner of his room. What the hell, man? He exclaimed harshly between coughs. Just popped in to see how you were doing. The clone answered without a care in the world. So, how you doing? Walking towards a window, Owen slid it open. Leaning into the windowsill, the man took another drag from his cigarette. Releasing his breath, a cloud of smoke blew from his mouth. To Naruto's surprise, the cloud began to take form, shifting to crudely resemble Owen. So, how are you gonna train me, exactly? The Naruto clone shrugged. We'll get to that later. Right now the boss just wants to make sure you're comfortable. You ever thought about rebelling against the boss? Owen asked, blowing another plum of smoke. This time, it shifted into the form of a dragon. The smoky Owen, now riding a smoky dragon, gave a silent battle cry before charging up higher into the air. Well, technically we are each other. I can't really rebel against myself. The clone offered awkwardly, not quite knowing how to answer the question. As the smoky Owen and its dragon dispersed into the air, Owen flicked his half-eaten away cigarette into the Manhattan streets. Sure you can. Before the clone could answer, Ileana's voice could be heard. Okay, so I press this button? Owen looked around the room. Is that a PA system? The clone smiles proudly. Yeah, we just finished installing it a few minutes ago. Pretty neat, huh? Yeah, neat is the exact word I'd call it, Owen said distractedly as Shuri's voice could be heard in the background, telling Ileana that the PA was on. Hey, Owen, could you head down to the basement, please? Ileana asked over the intercom system. Owen sighs, rubbing his scalp. I don't really dash. He wasn't able to finish the thought, as the Naruto clone grabbed onto his shoulder before disappearing in a flash. Owen stumbled as he and the clone appeared in the basement. Feel like it? Owen finished, feeling the room spin as he caught himself from falling on his ass. What the hell was that? The clone shrugs. Hiration. You'll get used to it, promise. Right. The other man breathed, finally steadying himself. Looking over at Ileana, who was sitting next to Shuri at a large computer setup. Walking over, he asked, What ya need? Ileana points over to another Naruto clone. Him. Owen eyed the second for a moment before turning to the one who brought him down. You couldn't have told me? You think we have some kind of psychic connection? The two clones asked at the same time. Blinking, they looked at each other. Whoa, weird, they said together again. The first clone popped after that, clearly weirded out. Ileana rubbed her temple with her finger as she looked at the screen Shuri was typing into. His clones are a pain in the ass already. God forbid they start having an interconnected web of psychic thought. Okoye, who was standing directly behind Shuri, lifted a curious eyebrow at Owen. This is him? What do you need? Owen asked, trying to get to the point. Just figured you should come down and meet the rest of the crew. The clone answered lightly with a lopsided smile. General Okoye over here thinks I'm full of it when I tell her what you can do. I never said anything about you being full of whatever it is you're supposedly full of, Okoye argued. And excuse me for being skeptical of a man who can make anything out of nothing. Owen began to rub at his elbow. I wouldn't call it that, don't listen to him. Naruto interrupted happily. He's just being modest. Okoye hummed to herself. Alright then, let's test his talent. Everyone turned to Owen, all awaiting him to show off his skills. The man finally accepted his situation, rolling his shoulders before muttering. Alright, hit me. Make a chair. Naruto offered, wanting to start off simple. Nodding, Owen extended his hands out in front of him. His face creased in concentration. He quickly began to will his powers to the surface. Yellow energy enveloped his hands, humming aggressively. Across from Owen, a bundle of similar energy appeared, it too humming like an engine. And with one final heft of effort it happened. A chair appeared. It was a simple wooden chair. But all the same, it came from nothing. That is so cool. Shuri breathed, her eyes never leaving the chair. Okoye hummed to herself. Could you make a Kimoyo beads charging pad? A certain someone forgot hers back home. I don't know what that is. Owen admitted, taking a seat on the brand new chair. Even if I did, I'm not that great at making electronics. There's so many working parts, it's hard to make them so they work. It's like making a watch, you know? Clearly not impressed, Okoye scoffed as she folded her arms across her chest. What's the saying? Premium steak? This isn't one of those, Uzumaki. What are you talking about? Naruto demanded, clapping his hand on the other man's shoulder. This guy's awesome. Okoye shrugged. If you say so, Uzumaki. So, what else can you do? Shuri asked, clearly curious as she turned fully away from her work on the computer. Not happy with the attention, Owen shrugged. I can turn stuff into other things, make him disappear, animate objects dash. Whoa. Shuri waved her hands to stop him. So, you could make that chair you just made run around and stuff? Sure. Owen shrugs again. Well, go on. Shuri challenged gleefully, eyes sparkling with wonder. The smallest of smiles reaches Owen's face. Well, sure, I guess. Getting up, his left hand was enveloped in the yellow energy. Grabbing the back of the chair, Owen enveloped his energy around it. As the energy disappeared, the chair began to creak. And with a jump, it was off. Its four legs carried it like it was on fire. It didn't make it far before running into a support beam, knocking itself over to the ground. On its side, the chair continued to try and run, the legs kicking wildly. Shuri and Ileana giggled as the chair began to rotate in a circle along the ground. The Naruto clone chuckled along, and Okoye's stoic facade began to bleed into slight amusement. Owen smiled, stuffing his hands in his pockets as the group watched the chair try and pick itself up. Naruto sighs as he and Jessica are dragged into the backstage of the Avengers Tower press briefing room, folding his arms over his chest dejectedly as he waits for whatever it is Tony was announcing. Feeling a tap on his shoulder, he turns around to find Wanda standing behind him. "Hey," Naruto greets with a toothy grin. "What are you doing here?" Wanda, her arms folded abrasively, answers, "Stark told me to come." "Something about a rebranding." "Rebranding?" Jessica asks, butting into the conversation. "As in the Avengers?" The Maximoff stares her down. "Who are you?" she asks bluntly. "Jessica Dre - Spider-Woman." Naruto interrupts merrily. "This is Spider-Woman." Blinking, Wanda mutters, "Spider-Woman? What is a Spider-Woman, and why is he calling you that?" Jessica opens and closes her mouth, turning away when she realizes she doesn't have a response. "Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto turns, a man dressed in an Air Force officer's uniform walking towards. The man reaches his hand out, offering a handshake. Naruto takes the offer, sharing a firm handshake with the man. "James Rhodes," Naruto states. "It's good to finally meet you. Honestly, a little surprised you know who I am." James admits, "Considering the stories I've heard, I didn't think I was on your radar." The blonde laughs. "You kidding? Anyone called War Machine is immediately put on my radar. It's probably the second most badass codename I've ever heard." "What's the first?" Jessica asks, off to the side. "Spider-Woman, of course." She groans. "Jesus Christ, will you ever drop that?" "Not till it sticks," Naruto states lightly. "Oh, it has." James joins in, much to Jessica's dismay. Murmurs break out from within the briefing room. Looking out onto the stage, Naruto sees Tony walking out from the other side of the backstage. The clicking of cameras and the stilled chatter of the gathered journalists reaches the stage, as the Iron Man reaches the center podium. Running his hands over the edge of the podium, Tony gives a smile to the crowd. "Good morning, everybody." The room goes quiet. Tony clears his throat. "I think we can skip the decorum and cut right to the chase." He stops, working up his courage. 7 years ago, I sat in front of a lot of the same people that are here today and told you about an epiphany I had out in that desert. About the realization that I had become a part of a system that was comfortable with zero accountability. I claimed that I had more to offer than just making things that blow up. I promised change. Not just from Stark Industries, but from myself as well. And I thought I had. I became a hero. Saved some lives. Stopped some really bad people from doing some really bad things. I joined a team dedicated to protecting Earth. But as time went on, as I became more and more comfortable with the new me, I started to slip back into old habits. Once again, I became a part of a system that not only was comfortable with zero accountability but scoffed at the very notion that we could do anything wrong. We're the Avengers, after all." Tony pauses, shaking his head with a lost look in his eye. "I watched thousands of people die, with a weapon I created to defend them and protect them." The room somehow grows even quieter, with a stillness so sharp it cut deep. "I was given a second chance, and I wasted it. I don't deserve a third. I don't, no matter how badly I want to make it up to you, I don't deserve it. Despite that, I've been given that chance. Graced with it by the United Nations and the United States government. A chance to show you that we the Avengers are capable of change, capable of accountability. And so, it is here that I officially announce the registration of the Avengers under the United Nations. We are officially sponsored and monitored under their jurisdiction, and now operate under the supervision of an as of yet unelected panel. We are only to be deployed when and if this panel deems it necessary." The silence breaks, as the journalists and reporters begin whispering among each other. Tony speaks over the crowd, his arms gesturing out widely as he says, "If you all wouldn't mind welcoming the team's newest iteration, the Mighty Avengers. This new roster includes James Rhodes, Natasha Romanoff, Wanda Maximoff, and Dane Whitman." From the side of the stage Tony had walked out on, Natasha, sporting a new Black Widow uniform, steps out from behind the curtain. Following close behind her is a slick-haired man in his early 30s. The man, foregoing any kind of uniform, is wearing a basic leather jacket and brown pants. Held in his left arm, a black medieval-style helmet with yellow trimming along the eyes and mouth. Strapped to his side, an impressive broadsword. James and Wanda walk past Naruto, joining their teammates on stage, James waving to the crowd while Wanda does her best to get it over with. Natasha, Dane, James, and Wanda now stand behind Tony, the man bracing himself for the media onslaught. But it doesn't come. The audience remains quiet for several moments. Eventually, a lone journalist in the back of the crowd raises his hand. From the back, he shouts, "Where's Captain America?" Tony pauses at the question before answering. "I'm sorry to say that Captain Rogers refused to sign dash." The crowd breaks out in a frenzy of discombobulated questions and concerns. Tony, unable to make out a word, looks over to the side of the stage, he and Naruto making eye contact. The blonde can only give a shrug before Tony looks away, finally able to hear a coherent question. "What about the maelstrom? What about Naruto Uzumaki?" Seeing that as his K, Naruto takes a deep breath in before walking out onto the stage, a wave of flashing lights greeting him. Chapter 30. Long time no see. Why are we doing this again? Spider-Man, standing horizontally against the basement wall within the Infinity Watch's base of operations, tried to regain his balance. Naruto, standing across from the teen, tapped his foot impatiently as he said, "You wanted to train, right? This is training, buddy." Finally having gained his balance, Spider-Man scratched at the back of his mask. "Okay, but like how?" The blonde sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "How long did you say you can cling to a wall again?" "Like 15 minutes. The teenaged hero answered bashfully before muttering under his breath. "I thought that was pretty good." "It is," Naruto reassured. "But that's just when you're clinging. But what about climbing up walls like you like to do? What happens if you need to climb something real tall and you get worn out halfway up? You need to work on your stamina, kid, trust me. It'll come in handy in the long run." Now used to standing horizontally, Spider-Man took a look around the rest of the basement. The boy was still in awe of the massive training room the blonde Superman had put together. From the gym and workout equipment where Jessica was bench pressing 600 pounds, the array of computer monitors where Shuri was typing away, the dojo mat where Owen was practicing his newly learned katas, to the koi pond where Ileana was sitting in a lotus position. And a Naruto shadow clone accompanied each of them, coaching them through their workouts. "So which one is the real you?" Spider-Man asked. "How are we supposed to tell anyway?" The one with Ileana, I think," the clone answered, scratching his cheek. "And you're not really supposed to, Parker. Kinda the point of making clones and stuff, you know?" Parker nodded. Yeah, I guess. "Hey, so how does someone become a watchman?" Naruto blinked. "A what?" "A watchman," Spider-Man repeated. Seeing Naruto's persisting confusion, the teen explained. "That's what you call members of Infinity Watch, right? Watchmen or Watchers or Infinitiaires or something." "Well, I can't really call us Watchmen considering most of our members are women. Doesn't really make sense," Naruto said, which got a nod from the younger man. "But you got a good point, we kinda need a group name. Infinitiaires sounds good, though I doubt the others would go for it. Watchers are taken, so that doesn't work either." "Taken by who?" Spider-Man questioned, tilting his head curiously. Naruto waved his hand dismissively. "Oh, just some species of semi-omniscient dudes who look over the entire multiverse. I'd say we'd never run into M, but as soon as I'd say that I'd probably run into Watu again, and trust me, that's the last thing anyone wants. That dude does not shut up." Slowly, Spider-Man's googled eyes narrow, indicating his suspicion. "Nah. Yaha?" Naruto challenged back childishly. As the two entered a childish back and forth, Jessica rolled her eyes from her spot at the bench press. With noticeable effort, Jessica pumped the bar upwards. The Naruto clone, who'd been spying the woman, noticed the gesture. "Don't let M distract you, you only got 2 more to go," the clone tells her. "Yeah, well," Jessica grunted as she lowered the bar. "And that clone brother of yours." She lifted it back up. "And that spider kid of yours." The bar is lowered. "Are bickering like that." Finally, she heaves the bar up for a final time. "It's a little hard not to be distracted." The clone helped her place the bar on the bench's rack. "Maybe the boss gave that one a few less brain cells than the rest," he said cheekily. Jessica sat up, stretching her left arms across her chest as she said, "Seems pretty par for the course when it comes to you, clone or original." Owen, standing across from another of Naruto's shadow clones, massaged the left side of his temple as he asked, "So I'm more powerful than you?" The clone gave an uneasy smile as he answered, "Well, when it comes to this specific power set, yeah. From what I've seen, you don't really have to pull on any kind of reserves like I do." "I'm confused," Owen states blandly. Like, 100% confused. Totally over my head. Right. The clone breathed. Okay, so your ability is essentially the power to warp matter at will. You can construct, deconstruct, and reconstruct, right? When Owen nods, the clone continues. I have a similar ability when using cosmic energy. However, I'm limited by how much of that energy I've gathered. Once my tank is empty, I can't use that ability until I've refilled. You don't have that weakness. So, my powers don't have a limit? Owen muttered thoughtfully. That's pretty cool, I guess. The clone shook his head. Well, actually, from what I've seen, your powers are limited by experience. They're like a muscle. If you don't build it up, you're limited with what you can do with that muscle. So, what we're going to do is try and expand your power set. It'll take time, like a lot of time, but eventually you'll be a fucking monster. So, where do we start? Owen asked, a twinge of excitement slipping by. Well, I noticed something during your demonstration the other day. The clone said. You spend way too much time releasing your energy. Me and a few clones have been brainstorming, and one of them gave me an idea for how you could speed that along. Lifting up his hand, Naruto shifted his fingers into a snapping position. When building your energy, focus it into your hand. Once you've got what you need, snap your fingers. Naruto snaps his own, an audible click sounding off. Wordlessly, Owen did as Naruto said. Raising his hand, he got his fingers ready to snap. After a moment of thought, he gathered his energy along that hand. Snapping his fingers, yellow energy flashed in front of him. Catching the object that came from the flash, Naruto turned it over in his hand. Smiling, he owned the small statue that was rather crudely in his image. We're gonna have to work on your attention to detail. Ileana, still sitting cross-legged across from the last Naruto clone in the room, sighed as she began to ask. Would you please explain why I have to learn how to be totally still ? Talking isn't totally still. The clone cut her off, his eyes closed as he sat across from her, his body totally motionless. And I want to see if you can learn something. Someone I fought a little while ago showed me others besides me can learn it. Might have been because she was a god, might be that anyone can learn it if they have the right teacher. Now shut up and stay still. I'll know if you aren't. Fine. Ileana grumbled, closing her eyes as she grumpily collected her breath. Going stiff, the woman sat there for several moments, only for her eyebrow to eventually twitch. Start again, the clone drawled. With a huff, Ileana said, How the hell am I supposed to stay completely still? That doesn't make any sense. You've been trained by monk wizards and you don't know how to meditate? The clone questioned teasingly. Ileana blew a strand of hair out of her face. Meditating was never my strong suit, and in all honesty I'm surprised it's yours. You can barely sit still while watching TV upstairs, so I'm still put off that you're trying to teach me something I'm still not sure you can do. Naruto's eyebrow twitched out of annoyance. Fine, he muttered. Let me show you. Taking his own breath in, the blonde once again went still as he thought. I could have a talk with Freya on way. Haven't talked to her for a few days. I'm sure she could use the company. Humph. Kurama harumphed. How thoughtful of you. Jealousy doesn't suit you, partner. Naruto quipped lightly, laughing internally at the Biju's bubbling embarrassment. The blonde could feel thought the seal. Feeling the mental pull inward, Naruto allowed himself to fall into that corner of his mindscape. Opening his eyes, he found himself in the now familiar part of Freya's quarters. But instead of finding the warmth of a blazing campfire sitting in front of him, a tranquil river has replaced it. Looking to his right, the blonde raised a confused eyebrow at who greeted him. Sitting at the edge of the river was a man. He appeared to be in his mid-50s, his short gray hair was swept back, and his thick beard was peppered with black and white. Wearing a simple white button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the elbows, a pair of blue trousers that were rolled up to his shins, and bare feet dipped into the calm river, the man had a rather relaxed look about him. Sitting loosely in his hands was an old-fashioned fishing rod, the flimsy stick having a 2-yard-long string at the end, the other end of said string submerged within the river. Eventually catching Naruto at the corner of his eye, the man turned his head to acknowledge the younger man. Oh, so which one are you? The man drawled, only to quickly realize who soon after. Ah, I see. Sorry, it's hard to keep all of you straight sometimes. What? Naruto wondered. Who the hell are you supposed to be right now, Freya? The man laughs, leaning his head back merrily. I'm not Freya, I'm afraid. The girl ran off. I think I might have annoyed her with my presence. The man says mirthfully. This is her private little corner, after all. not too kind to intruders. Well, except you, of course. Surprised, Naruto took a moment to collect what the man had said. Eventually, he said, "You're one of her siblings, aren't you?" "I suppose that's the most appropriate term for our relationship that you could understand, though I would argue she is a byproduct of my existence, and am therefore her progenitor. She is bound to me, and I to her. There's nowhere she can be that I'm not." The man explained, speaking as though he were reading off a script as he turned his attention back to his pole and the river before him. Walking up to the man, the blonde placed his hands in his pockets. "So, which one are you?" She never really went into details, so it's kinda hard to guess with what you've given. "Me? Oh, so many people call me so many different things, it's honestly rather bothersome keeping track of them all. My siblings like to call me Eternity, a few people have called me Time or Fate, others Ian, and some Epic. You like to call me Call, so it's probably best to keep that going, for continuity's sake." Call introduced himself blandly. "We've met?" Naruto questioned. "Not in the sense of here and now, no," Call answered with a shrug. He sighed, waving his hand whimsically. "And this is where I tell you about the multiverse and how I'm experiencing time within every reality all in one moment, and so on and yada yada yada." Naruto blinked, taking in what the man told him before asking, "So, you can see the past, present, and future of every reality or multiverse?" "Can?" Saying it like that makes it sound like I can turn it off and on. Call drawled, his voice filled with slight annoyance. "I've had this conversation with you ad nauseum, all while also having every other conversation I've ever had at the same time at the same capacity. It's all gotten so dull." "Huh." Naruto breathed in slight disbelief. "And just to get this straight, you're talking to other me's at the same time as you're talking to me? I guess I can see how that might get boring." Call shrugged. "There's a pretty large variety of Narutos out there, so it's not like I'm only talking to this variation of you or whatever. If anything, you're not even the generic version of yourself. Your path has diverged a fair amount compared to the name-brand version." "Did you just call me off-brand?" Naruto questioned with a raised eyebrow. "Yup," Call answered bluntly. Looking over his shoulder up at the blonde, Call nodded his head towards the river, jiggling the fishing rod in his hands, the shaking string causing ripples along the river. Naruto looked down, his eye catching an image just beneath the water. It was him, though not. He was home, with friends. And his family. "This is the version of me that the Mind Stone showed me," Naruto told Call, the older being nodding. "So, this is real? Somewhere out there, this is actually happening?" "Yup," Call said again. "There's a few variations of that. Some you marry that Sakura girl, a few with some girl named Cheyenne, others you end up with that Sasuke guy." Seeing Naruto's incredulous look, the man shrugged. "Just telling you how it is. But for the most part, this is the main version of you. In other words, name brand." Naruto, sitting down next to Call, asked, "What about the ones like me? The off-brands, I mean?" "Oh, them?" The physical embodiment of time asked, though it seemed like he expected the question and was only playing along. "Those get kinda weird." "Cool, but weird." Shaking the rod once again, several images began popping up from under the water. The first image to flow by was one of Naruto wearing what looked like a root uniform, this alternate version of him using a fire technique that was oddly similar to the Amaterasu. The black flames licked out from the alternate Naruto's hand, seemingly spilling out from a seal. And if Naruto wasn't mistaken, a lone Sharingan sat in the other blonde's right eye socket, a deep scar running along that side of his face. That version of you was a root trainee. Then there's another version where you have the Rinnegan, and were raised by monks at the fire temple. Call explained as another image waded through the river. As Call described, this version of Naruto was decked out in monk robes, his eyes squinted shut to hide the eyes of a pseudo-messiah. The sagely Naruto carried a staff that was reminiscent of Hagoromo's very own. Standing next to him was a woman Naruto recognized to be Fu, the former Jinchuriki of Chomei. And seemingly remembering a funny joke, Call recollected. "And I could never forget the reality where you somehow gained immortality and after a century or so traveled to the other side of your world and got embroiled in an ocean-wide conflict between an entire government's navy and the pirates who littered those open seas." This iteration of himself forced Naruto to raise an eyebrow, as a boisterous Naruto wearing the red sage coat and a headband similar to Jiraiya's waded by. Said blonde was captaining a large sailing ship that was painted a bright orange. A small crew seemed to be going about their business aboard the ship, including a heavily tattooed young man with a bandana wrapped around his head, a beautiful blue-haired woman who seemed to be cleaning a strange kind of gun, and a pair of sword fighters who were wielding the Kubikuribocho and the sword of Kusanagi respectively. A Jolly Rogers flew freely on the ship's mast, signifying the crew's pirate status. "There's a version of me who's a pirate?" Naruto questioned, doing his best to hide his jealousy. "He isn't a pirate," Call corrected firmly, allowing the image to fade away and be replaced with two more. The first featured a younger Naruto, this one fighting off a man with spiky brown hair. While the other him used what looked like an intense fire attack, the man was countering with an impressive barrage of water. In the second, a Naruto who seemed to be a lawman of the Old West, rode horseback with Sakura and Sasuke, the three fighting off a gang of outlaws who were licking their heels in hot pursuit. Naruto scratched at the back of his scalp. "I feel like I shouldn't be seeing this, you know? Like I'm watching something that's taboo, I guess. Just feels weird." "Oh, I'm definitely not supposed to be showing you any of this," Call admitted freely. "But I honestly figured I'd get tired of dancing around it, and that I might as well just give you what you'll learn eventually." "Eventually?" Naruto wondered. Call laughed, wagging his finger at the blonde. "Now that'd be telling. I might not care about telling you about your alternate selves, but I'm not stupid enough to tempt fate by giving you nuggets from your future. That is my domain, after all." He paused before delivering an exasperated sigh. "And this is where you tell me you don't believe in fate. For infinity's sake, don't be so one-dimensional. It's dull." "I'm one-dimensional?" Naruto questioned, annoyed. "So says the walking lazy genius cliché?" Call mockingly made a talking gesture with his hand. "You're the trillionth person to tell me that today," he muttered tiredly. Scratching his bearded chin, Call continued. "You believe in fate, Naruto. You do. The thing you don't believe in is manufactured fate. Whether that be Niji, Gamamaru, or Hagoromo, all you've ever been told are man, or toad, made prophecies. Well, let me tell you that fate, real fate, me, exists. And it won't change because my sister's got a soft spot for you. You're here for a reason. Your people died for a reason. It was fate, me, that brought you here. Don't forget that, kid." A long silence reigned in over the two, Naruto sitting within that awkward quiet for several moments. "So, what now?" Naruto questioned lamely, not really knowing where to go from there, the celestial being pointed up. "The girl is knockin', might as well wake yourself up before she starts poking at you." "Girl?" Naruto wondered, only for it to click as soon as the question left his lips. "Ileana, right? Shit, yeah, I'd better head out." As he got up, a doorway opened up next to the blonde. Looking down, Naruto said, "Tell Freya I said hi for me. It was nice meeting you, I guess." Call didn't respond, his attention solely on the string that bobbed along the river. As Naruto exited his mindscape, a presence made itself known next to him. "Naruto says hello, though I'm sure you heard." Freya scoffed from her spot next to her hearth. "I had hoped you'd leave once I had. It wasn't my intention for you to talk to him." Her eyes narrow. "What are you doing, Eternity?" A smile stretched across Eternity's face. "Just making sure our mutual friend keeps on his path. No better way to do that than some face-to-face chit-chat. You've done your damnedest to warn him away from what's coming, from the decision you and I both know he'll have to make. Don't deny it, being sneaky isn't good enough of a workaround. Very commendable, sister dear. All I've done is show him there is more than one path to take," Freya argued weakly. Call looked over his shoulder, looking his sister in the eye. "No, there isn't. Eventually, the river of time will douse the flames of life. That's how it works. For everyone. If you meddle further, you know who will intervene." "I know," Freya said, looking away and into the flames. "I'm just trying to look out for you, sister dear," Call told her softly. "I know." Naruto's eyes creaked open, sighing when he saw that Ileana, Owen, and Spider-Man were huddled around him, Ileana in the middle of poking him in the temple. Swatting the woman's hand away, Naruto grumbled. "Back off, geez. Enjoy your nap?" Ileana quipped teasingly. "I told you not to stay up so late." Naruto stood up, stretching his back. "I wasn't napping, and it's not my fault. Owen would have kept watching New Girl without me. No way in hell I'm falling behind just because he was being a selfish turd. You don't have to watch it with me," Owen muttered, wincing as Naruto popped his back. "You guys watch New Girl?" Parker asked them, amused. Naruto and Owen turned to the young man. Yeah? It's awesome. Naruto said defensively. It's alright, Ileana said, folding her arms across her chest. I still think we should be catching up on Game of Thrones instead. Yeah, and you got outvoted, so there. Naruto retorted childishly, sticking his tongue out at her. Ileana stuck her own out back, delivering a raspberry. Owen rolled his eyes as he said, Shuri just finished the list you asked her to make. We figured you'd want to be there during the debriefing. She's very excited, Ileana said merrily. She's all nervous and businesslike. It's pretty cute. I'm glad you think our youngest member is so amusing. Naruto grumbled as he began to walk out of the gym, the other three following. How long was I out anyway? Just a few minutes, Parker answered. All your clones decided to pop, and Ms. Drew went to go get dressed for the meeting. He paused. Is this a Watchers only meeting or Infinitairs only, kid? Sorry, Naruto answered, giving an apologetic smile. Ileana paused. Infinitairs? Naruto looked over his shoulder at the sorceress. It was that or Watchmen, and since 3/5 of this group is women, I figured who actually gives a damn about that kind of thing? Ileana questioned in disbelief. Just call us Watchmen, don't have to be so politically correct about it, Jesus. Alright, geez, Naruto grumbled before looking at the now retreating Parker. Hear that, kid, you can call us Watchmen now. Ain't that neat? Parker laughed as he reached the stairs. Sure is, boss. As the kid began to climb the stairs, Naruto created a shadow clone. Make sure the kid doesn't get lost, the original said uselessly, the clone already knowing its orders. Trust issues? Owen asked blandly as they exited the gym, entering the other half of the basement. The click-clacking of a keyboard filled the room, Shuri typing away while Okoye stood by observing her charge intently. A little, Naruto admitted. Though let's be honest, we've all gotten lost in this place by now, right? The two's lack of a response was enough of an answer for the now smirking blonde. The group finally reached the two Wakandan women. As they did, Jessica walked down the basement steps. I see you sent the kid away, she stated, now dressed in a pair of tan jeans and long-sleeved shirt with the emblem for the United Kingdom emblazoned on the chest. Told you, he's not a part of the team, Naruto said matter-of-factly, allowing the woman to reach them before turning to Shuri. So, what have you got for us? Parker's gone? Shuri asked timidly, ignoring the question. Okoye swatted the girl's arm, giving her an expectant look. Time and place, princess. Right, the girl grumbled. Alright, so I compiled that list you asked for. It was harder than I thought to find unregistered supers who haven't already retired under the Soul Accord's mandate, so the list isn't as long as you thought. Naruto nodded. Less work for us then, he said cheerfully. It also means a lot of the people who would have been a good fit aren't available, Jessica informed, getting a shrug from the Uzumaki. Turning back to the computer, Shuri pulled up a file onto the screen. I think I'll start with the West Coast. First, we've got Miguel Santos, aka Living Lightning. From news sources, the man looks like he can control electricity to an insane degree. Next, Naruto interrupted. Shuri stopped, flabbergasted. Turning to look at the older man, she asked meekly. What? I can already do lightning stuff, and I'm pretty sure Ileana could too. When Ileana gave a wishy-washy gesture with her hand, the man continued. Either way, we don't need another dash. Why don't you let the princess finish before coming to a decision? Okoye asked sternly. I have seen this list, and trust me when I tell you that you should be happy with whatever you get. Naruto raised up his hands defensively. Alright, sorry. Shuri, please continue. Shuri, her eyes darting between Naruto and Okoye, hesitantly went back to Miguel Santos' file. There's nothing on how he gained these abilities, though it's believed he gained them through some sort of accident involving AIM before they went defunct. Santos usually targets gangs within California, though lately he's been branching out to metahuman criminals. Turning back to the group, she noted. I did some research into that, and apparently there's been a metahuman outbreak throughout the West Coast with little to nothing being done to combat these new superpowered criminals. That's what happens when 95% of superheroes are stationed in New York City, Jessica said with a sigh. This is a recent issue, only going as far back as a few years. The only reason it's noticeable within the West Coast is because it's prevalent there. But it's happening everywhere, and not just within the United States. Maybe it's because we've only now noticed, but there are 20 times the amount of documented metahumans as there were a decade ago. That's not including the undocumented ones. How many of the documented ones signed the Accords? Owen asked. Around 55%. Jessica answered. 20% retired, the rest are going against the Accords in whatever way they can. Ileana nodded. And those are who we're going for, right? Nodding, Naruto said. Please continue, Shuri. Right. Shuri said. So, Santos is usually seen throughout Los Angeles, so that's probably the best place to start. That's all I could find without hacking into the LAPD and CIA databases, something you told me not to do. So, I guess we'll move on to Jennifer Walters, or, as I like to call her, She-Hulk. Shuri, quick note. Naruto offered. If we by chance manage to recruit her, don't call her that. Alright? Giggling, Shuri continued. So, She-Hulk was pretty easy to find information on, considering her close association with Bruce Banner. A big-time lawyer, she and her boss were prosecuting an even bigger big-time mob boss. Apparently, this crime syndicate had threatened her to back off, but she and her boss decided to follow through with the prosecution despite the threats. A few days before the trial, both she and her boss were shot outside their homes. Her boss was dead on arrival. Jessica was in critical condition. Bruce Banner, her only living relative with a matching blood type, offered to donate his blood for a transfusion. Jennifer survived, though was subject to severe side effects caused by the transfusion. A side-by-side picture was pulled up onto the computer screen. On one side of the picture was Jennifer Walters, the beautiful woman in perfect condition. Her short brunette hair hung just above her shoulders, her timid smile in full display as she grinned for the camera. Her thin frame was wrapped in a sharp suit, femininity leaking off the woman as she allowed reporters to take her picture as she walked into a courthouse. And on the other side, a picture of what Jennifer had become. Her skin was a pale green, her brown hair darkened to a deep black. Her once thin build was gone, replaced with pure muscle that was barely hidden by the hospital gown given to cover her unconscious modesty. According to her charts, the change is permanent. Shuri continued. Jennifer went from 5'3" to 6'2" and is now 200 pounds of pure muscle. Unlike her cousin, whose green self seems to be another personality who runs off pure emotion and instinct, Jennifer has retained her personality. Minus a slightly more aggressive disposition, she's still Jennifer Walters. She's also not as physically powerful as her cousin, though she can still punch through pure concrete as she's proven to do. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. A definite maybe? Jessica wondered, baffled by the man's choice of words. The woman is a smart version of the Hulk, what about that makes her a maybe? Maybe because he slept with her. Ileana said blandly. Everyone turned their gaze onto Naruto, giving the man looks with varying amounts of incredulity. In my defense, this was before she got all hulkied. Why does that matter? Okoye questioned scornfully. It doesn't. I'm just, saying is all. Naruto exclaimed defensively. Jessica sighed. Are there any other possible members of the team you've slept with that we should know about? She demanded. Possible? No. Naruto muttered bashfully, eyeing Ileana. The gesture was caught by Okoye and Jessica, the two women scoffing at the implication. Pig. Okoye grunted, turning her nose up at the man. Rubbing the side of his face, Naruto attempted to get the subject back on track. Shuri, can we please continue with the debriefing? Quick note version, please. Owen asked, wanting the meeting to get over with. Okay, well, to cap off the West Coast we have Hope Van Dyne, daughter of Hank Pym. Shuri said, pulling up Van Dyne's file. Your SHIELD file says she likely has access to her father's Pym particles. That, and there have been reports of a giant ant roaming around San Francisco, which I don't think is a coincidence considering her dad's SHIELD moniker, Ant-Man. Which, by the way, you Americans really need to come up with better superhero names. Adding man or woman to the end of whatever it is your power resembles is so lame. Right, Jessica agreed, getting a giggle from the girl when she realized what Naruto had been calling her. Anyway, then there's the East Coast, here in New York City, actually. Two of these guys are vigilantes, only one of whom I have the identity of. The other was pretty easy to get information on, considering he's an ex-convict, explained Shuri. The ex-con's name is Carl Lucas, though nowadays he goes by Luke Cage. He's got a pretty large social media following, with a few videos showing off his powers. The man is a walking tank. Apparently, bullets bounce off him like Nerf darts. Could be a solid backup if Jennifer Walters declines your offer. Which seems likely now. Jessica muttered under her breath. A video clip from Twitter was pulled up, the short clip showing an African-American man, who was built like a brick house, take a baseball bat to the back of the head without even blinking. Definitely a good second-string choice. Good work, Shuri. Naruto complimented, impressed that someone with invulnerability was on the list. Thanks, Shuri said bashfully, taking that as an incentive to continue. The second is a blind lawyer out in Hell's Kitchen whose name is Matt Murdock. A blind lawyer? Owen questioned. Scraping the bottom of the barrel, huh? Well, according to his shield file, the incident that rendered him blind amped his other senses up to their maximus notches. There isn't much description, but his file says he's a dangerous hand-to-hand specialist. I think he could be useful, Shuri said defensively. He's better than the other fighter Naruto gave me, some millionaire named Danny Rand. We've already got a benefactor. Cough me cough. Do we have a lawyer? Nope. And this is just a guess, but we might be needing one or two of them in the future. Owen shrugged a shoulder at the heated rebuttal. Point taken. Moving a strand of hair out of her face, Shuri continued. The last one is a bit of a long shot. Social media has been calling him Moon Knight. There's only one photograph of him, and it's not the best quality. He's pretty new to the scene, so there was no file on the shield flash drive Naruto gave me, and the public barely knows he exists. He's pretty much a total unknown. And a last resort if we can't get any of the others in the city, Naruto said, looking at the picture of the man Shuri had pulled up. Shuri, if anything, had talked up the quality of the picture. The man was barely in the frame. All that could be made out was his head and a part of his torso. The vigilante was decked out in an all-white business suit, specks of blood staining the previously pristine jacket. A white mask, similar to Parker's in fabric, covered his face entirely. An emblem that looked like a crescent moon could barely be made out on the fabric along the man's forehead. Alright, here's the plan, Naruto began to say, getting the full attention of those around him. Jessica and I are gonna take the East Coast, Ileana and Owen will take the 3 here in the city. What about me? Shuri wondered. Who am I going with? Naruto, feeling Okoye's stare, scratched the back of his head. I figured you'd stay here, you know, act as the quartermaster and stuff. But I want to go dash, Naruto is right. Okoye interrupted her princess, giving the blonde a look that could barely be called appreciative. It's best that you stay here to provide support. Shuri huffed, but knowing better than to argue with the general, nodded nonetheless. All right, Naruto said, clapping his hands together. Jessica and I will head out. Ileana, if you could keep me in the loop, that'd be super fucking fantastic. You're really not looking forward to this, are you? Ileana asked the blonde cheerfully. I'll think we'll start with Mr. Lucas. Naruto nodded. Putting his hand out, the blonde gave a suggestive look. Hands in, boys and girls. Everyone circled around the man, their hands overlapping each other's. Ileana looked to the leader of their group, a small smile on her face as she asked. Watchmen on 3? On 3. Naruto confirmed. Looking down to their hands, he began to chant. 1, 2, 3 - Watchmen. The 5 threw their hands up. An awkward pause filled the space between them, the members of Infinity Watch sitting in the aftermath of their huddles break. Eventually Owen muttered. Alright, I'll say it. That was weird. Everyone nodded and muttered their agreements. Naruto rubbing the back of his neck as he asked. Never do that again? Infinity Watch gave firm nods. Date, September 7th, 2015. Location, San Francisco, California. Vance sighed as he finished off his cup of coffee, sliding the empty container into the cup holder at his side. Sitting in his car, parked next to a coffee shop within a heavily populated downtown area of the Golden Gate City, Vance Astrovic waited patiently for his client to arrive. Looking at the clock on his dashboard, he sighed knowing she was likely caught within the sidewalk's traffic. Hoping to pass the time, he peered into his side rearview mirror so he could people watch. He smiled as he caught a man picking at his nose, rooting around for a mysterious treasure. He laughed when a rather attractive woman noticed as well. The nasal explorer, realizing he'd been caught, avoided eye contact as the woman scrunched her nose up in disgust and passed him by. A knock on his passenger's side window caused Vance to jump, startled by the sudden disturbance. Leaning over, Vance peered up out of the window to get a look at who knocked on the door. The person was wearing a heavy tan trench coat, which was odd considering it was 75 degrees outside. Due to their impressive height, Vance was unable to see their face, forcing him to speak to their midriff. Are you Jennifer Walters? He asked. Yes, the woman answered. Are you Vance, from 5 Emerald Limousine? Vance Astrovic at your service. Vance said professionally. I'll be your driver this evening, with an SUV as requested. Jennifer, with the knowledge that this was her driver, opened the rear passenger door. Ducking into the car, Vance was forced to brace himself as the vehicle tilted into Jennifer's step. As she took her seat and fastened her seatbelt, Vance peeked at his rearview mirror. He stifled a laugh. A little late for Comic-Con, aren't we? Jennifer's face was partially covered by a low-hanging baseball cap. However, the green pigment of her skin could still be clearly made out. Forcing a smile, Jennifer said, Can't a girl dress up like the Hulk for the hell of it? Hulk girl, huh? Vance asked, shifting the car into drive. Yeah, I'm more of a Maelstrom guy myself. Jennifer's jaw clenched at the name. I know I was late, but I'm in a bit of a hurry. If we could get to the bank, that'd be great. Right, apologies, the chauffeur muttered, pulling the car into the street as he said. Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, here we come. After a short drive across San Francisco, the car found itself parked across the street from the Federal Reserve Bank. Vance drummed his fingers along the steering wheel, eyeing Jennifer through the rearview mirror. Eventually, he said, So, what brings you to San Francisco, ma'am? Jennifer, not taking her eyes off the bank, asked. What makes you think I'm not from here? Not a lot of people who live here ask for a private driver. Vance answered. Business, she eventually answered. I'm here on business. Vance nodded. Oh, yeah? What kind of business, if you don't mind me asking? Personal business. Taking the hint, Vance turned back, peering out the driver's side window as he waited for whenever Jennifer decided to leave. But the silence eventually grew too much. Looking back at her, he asked, Mind if I turn the radio on? She sighed, not taking her eyes off the bank. Sure. Jennifer relented. Shaking his head, Vance turned on the radio, dialing over to one of his go-to stations. As the station came on, the DJ's voice came through mid-sentence. Yuto Uzumaki's statement at the Avengers headquarters in New York City remains a controversial subject. Weeks later, we've asked callers to give us our thoughts. First up is Douglas, from Clayton. How's it going, Douglas? Another man's voice, over the phone, came on. Things are good, Doogie, thanks. So, what are your thoughts on Naruto Uzumaki being given amnesty from the Soul Accords? Do you think that's fair to the hundreds of others who are now being forced to sign and give up their anonymity? Doogie asked the caller. The caller scoffed into his phone. Of course it is, Doogie. It's ridiculous. How can they let someone who isn't even from this planet wander around, yet people actually from Earth are being forced to sign these accords? If you asked me, if one is exempt, all should be. And speaking of that, where's the due process? Where's Dash? Doogie, chuckling, cut Douglas off. You seem to be getting off topic, Douglas. Let's keep things with Naruto Uzumaki and his exemption from the Soul Accords. Right, sorry. Douglas apologized. Look, I respect the guy. I do. All the work he put into helping the relief effort was inspiring. Hell, he killed Ultron for God's sake. But even he shouldn't be exempt just because he isn't from here. He migrated here. He fights his battles here. He causes damage, same as the Avengers. He should be considered liable. Him, Thor, even Captain America. Thanks for the opinion, Douglas. Doogie tells the man. Let's get to the next caller. Victoria, you there? A new voice answered. Yeah, Doogie, I'm here. What's your opinion on the Maelstrom and the Soul Accords? Doogie asked the caller. For or against? I'm siding with the Maelstrom, Doogie. The man is a hero. Victoria answered firmly. If a good Samaritan goes into a burning building to save someone trapped inside, and he busts down the door trapping that someone, should the Samaritan be held liable for that door? For the building? Or should we be grateful for what he did? I prefer the former. What's the point of paying taxes towards damage control? Wasn't that division created to take care of any damage caused by these events? But what about the human casualties, Victoria? Doogie asks. Thousands have died on account of the Avengers' lack of supervision. Naruto himself has killed several hundred people. Where's the due process? Shouldn't we have some kind of control on someone willing to step over the criminal justice system? Could you change the station? Jennifer demanded. The driver does as she says, changing it to another station that was playing 1980s pop. Vance glanced back at her. Not a fan of the Maelstrom? Not particularly, no. She answered bitterly. Vance turned to look at her. The man saved my cousin's life. He was bleeding out, got caught by an Ultron drone's explosion. Naruto Uzumaki just appeared, hundreds of them. He healed my cousin, somehow. Put his hand on him, and a few seconds later he wasn't bleeding out anymore. That man saved hundreds of people's lives on May 22nd. Probably more. He's a good man. Jennifer tilts her hat up so she can look him in the eye. Good people aren't perfect. I've experienced that firsthand. Her eyes catch something pulling out of the bank side entrance. See that armored truck? Vance followed her line of sight. Spotting the armored bank vehicle, the man said. Yeah, I see it. Follow it. Jennifer told him firmly. What dash, follow it? Jennifer ordered again. Come on, before you lose sight of it. All right. Vance relented, pulling out after the armored truck. Quickly catching up, Vance begins following the truck through traffic. Eventually, the truck merged onto the freeway, Vance on its tail. Vance, keeping his eyes on the truck, asked, Why are we following this bank trunk, exactly? Keep 2 cars apart. Jennifer told him, looking out the back of the car. A white Ford Transit came into sight. I have a vested interest in who else is following the truck. Who else? Wait, what? Vance questioned, panic seeping into his voice. Are you saying someone's following us right now? Jennifer shook her head, watching as the large van passes them and the bank truck. Not anymore. Get into another lane now. Vance did as she said, getting into the lane to the right, watching as the van passed the truck. As the van pulled out in front of the armored vehicle, the rear door swings open, revealing 4 people standing in cargo space. A man dressed in an all-black tactical suit with a black dome over his head steps in front of the group, pulling out a tan rod that was about 3 feet long. Grasping it like a javelin, the man threw the rod towards the road directly in front of the bank trunk. As the rod connects with the road, the tip is triggered, causing a seismic blast that splits the road open, a slab of concrete shooting up. The truck rams straight into the slab, forcing it to come to a violent stop. The van screeched to a stop with it, the 4 people jumping out of the cargo hold. Next to the man with the cue sticks, a woman dressed in a black and purple tactical suit resembling a beetle pulled out a device that she straps to her arm. A buzzsaw made of purple energy emits from the gauntlet. As Vance and Jennifer passed them, the woman said, Stop the car. You can't be serious, Dash. Stop the fucking car. Vance, startled by the woman's harsh outburst, slammed his foot on the brake. The car has barely come to a complete stop when Jennifer jumped out. A man dressed in a blue and red masked leotard rushed out of the van, running at an extraordinary speed towards the truck. Reaching the driver's door, he pressed his hand up against the door's window. His hand began to vibrate against the windowpane, causing it to shatter. He gave a quick wave. Sup? Speed demon, stop messing around! A man shouted as he jumped out of the van. His suit resembled a modern knight, with a white and blue light-armored padding and a blue helmet with a white visor. He pulled out what looked like a pair of bladed boomerangs from their sheaths at his lower back. Sorry, boomerang, Speed Demon said before doing as he's told, quickly punching the panicking driver in the face, knocking him out. Opening the door, he pulled the driver out of the truck. Boomerang looked to the other 2. 8-Ball, Beetle, there should be another guard in the cargo hold. Deal with him. The 2 gnawed 8-Ball, the man with the black dome covering his head, said, I've got the guard. Beetle, after approaching the door, shoved her buzzsaw gauntlet into the door's hinges. As she cut through the thick metal, 8-Ball prepared to attack the awaiting guard inside. Inside the van, the driver spots someone approaching from the front of the van. The driver is dressed in an all-brown leather suit, the only part of the suit not made of leather being the black and red goggles over his eyes. Rolling down his window, he leaned his head outside. Boomerang, we got incoming, he warned. Boomerang looked behind him, immediately seeing Jennifer as the woman pulls off her overcoat and ball cap. Sporting a gray, cotton tracksuit underneath, the woman looked the man over. So, you're the B team? She asked. I guess, Boomerang said with a shrug, twirling the weapons in his hands. Who are you supposed to be? Hulk Girl? Kind of, Jennifer admitted with a shrug of her own. That's actually why I'm here. I need to see him. Your leader. Boomerang shook his head, sliding into a fighting stance. That's not going to happen. Yeah, it is, said Jennifer confidently. With nothing left to say, Boomerang threw one of the boomerangs straight for Jennifer's neck. Jennifer ducked underneath before charging forward. She'd barely taken her second step when the boomerang comes back, connecting with her back. The sound of fabric ripping reached Boomerang's ears, though he's surprised to see the woman barely acknowledge the blow, continuing to charge forward. He raised his arm up barely in time to intercept the backhand she delivers. Boomerang goes flying into the armored truck's grill, denting the metal plating with his body. Jennifer checked a large tear along the back of her jacket, causing her to groan. Glaring at the recovering knight, Jennifer growled, "Do you know how expensive these tracksuits are?" Stumbling to his feet, Boomerang panted, "Speed, a little help." Speed Demon zooms by, rushing into Jennifer's guard. With a flurry of jabs, the speedster delivered several dozen blows all around Jennifer's body. But the woman looked unperturbed. Realizing he wasn't doing much of anything, Speed Demon retreated. Standing beside Boomerang, the speedster asked, "Any ideas?" "We just need to hold her off. Once Beetle and 8-Ball get what we need, you get the money and then we're out of here," Boomerang muttered, cradling his chest. Beetle, having cut through the hinges, stepped back to let the door fall. As it did, 8-Ball threw the rod inside, the weapon skewering the guard through the chest. Peering inside, 8-Ball laughed at what he saw. "Speed, you're up!" 8-Ball yelled. Speed Demon, now at 8-Ball's side, said, "I'm tagging you both in." The two tilted their heads in confusion, only for the unasked questions to be answered when Boomerang is sent flying over the truck, landing on the hood of a minivan 2 cars away. Jennifer, her tracksuit now littered with scrapes courtesy of Boomerang's weapon of choice, lumbered after the man she just tossed aside. As she passed the armored truck, a tan and brown rod connects with her temple. A seismic blast came from the tip upon contact, sending Jennifer flying into the car next to her, the woman bouncing off of it and into the freeway's guardrail. Groaning, Jennifer picked herself up. As she shook the grogginess off, she notices something above her. Beetle, a pair of cybernetic wings giving her lift, flew overhead. Pointing her gauntlet towards Jennifer, Beetle opens fire. A purple blast of energy zinged just over Jennifer's head, crashing into the guardrail. Concrete and steel go flying, with Jennifer rolling away from the blast. As she finished the roll, a black sphere the size of a billiards ball rolled underneath her. Coming to a stop, the ball revealed a white sphere with an 8 plastered onto the face. Suddenly, the white began to blink a bright red. Boom! Jennifer is thrown back by the explosion, flying into yet another car. Debris pelted the freeway as smoke billows upwards. People scream and flee the scene, panic filling the air as Speed Demon rushes back and forth from the van and the armored truck, dropping off duffel bags into the van's cargo hold. Overdrive peeked his head back out the window, addressing Speed Demon. "We good?" "Nope." Overdrive jumped, startled to find someone standing on the hood of the van. Naruto, his arms folded, smiles down at Overdrive. "You're not good at all. I think you pissed her off." The car that Jennifer was thrown into is flung over, revealing the woman in all her fury. The top half of her tracksuit is gone, leaving a ratty t-shirt that was littered with holes along the shoulders and lower abdomen. Her pants were torn to shreds, the bottoms practically non-existent. She glared at 8-Ball. "You're dead," she growled. Overdrive, having been startled by Naruto, instinctively slammed his foot on the gas pedal. "Overdrive, don't!" Speed Demon screamed, a duffel bag still in hand. Naruto, still standing on the hood, kneeled down to get a good look at the driver. "Yeah, Overdrive. Don't." Pulling out the gun strapped to his side, Overdrive pointed it out his window towards the blonde. Before he can open fire, the gun suddenly crumples like a tin can in the driver's hand. Dropping it out of surprise, Overdrive looked back up at the blonde. Naruto wagged his finger disapprovingly at the driver. Before Overdrive could react, the back end of the car crumpled up as well, the tires exploding as well as Naruto used magnet release to force the van to come to a sudden stop. Losing control of the car, Overdrive can do nothing as he swerved into the side of a car. The airbags deploy, stunning him. Naruto jumped off the hood, watching as Jennifer caught a javelin thrown by 8-Ball. Snapping it in her hand like a toothpick, she threw it aside. Beetle, her gauntlet prepped to fire, is suddenly enveloped in a full Nelson. Jessica, grappling the other woman, sent out a discharge of bioelectric energy. Beetle immediately went limp, she and Jessica plummeting to the ground. Jessica lets go, landing on her feet as Beetle lands headfirst onto the roof of a nearby car. The woman lied motionless, her body limp against the roof of the car. 8-Ball, a javelin in hand, struck at Jennifer as she came in close. The woman swats it aside, grabbing 8-Ball by his dome helmet. Adding an incredible amount of pressure, the helmet cracks and bends under her hand. The man threw several punches into her triceps, trying to get her to let him go. But the panicked attack failed, as Jennifer crushes the man's helmet in her hand. Letting him go, she let the man stumble back blindly. Just when it seemed like he'd gotten his bearings, Jennifer Spartan kicked him in the chest. 8-Ball went flying into the armored truck. He fell limp, his torso broken in by the woman's mighty kick. Boomerang, having finally gotten to his feet, realized that his crew had either been taken down or, in Speed Demon's case, fled. "That son of a bitch," he grumbled, blood leaking past his teeth. Spitting out a wad of blood and spit, he stood straight. Jennifer was glaring at him. Jessica was eyeing him evenly. Naruto was smiling at him. The man knew he was fucked. He raised his hands above his head. "I surrender." Police sirens encroached, their lights flashing off in the distance. Boomerang looks at Jennifer. "You wanted to know about the leader, right? I can dash." A ding noise suddenly emitted from the man's helmet. As it did, a man's voice could be heard from inside saying, "Ah!" And then, with a loud pop, Boomerang's helmet exploded. The blast was nonviolent, the corpse totally intact as it collapsed to the ground. "What the fuck?" Jessica demanded, startled by the sudden execution. Before Naruto or Jennifer could answer, similar noises emitted from the remaining crew's helmets, with loud pops coming not long after. Naruto, looking around at the 4 headless corpses, rubs his chest in complete disbelief. "Holy shit," he breathed. "Why the hell are you here?" Naruto turned, looking Jennifer in the eye. Giving a soft smile, the blonde eventually says, "Long time no see." Location: Austin, Texas. Speed Demon, clutching his side, wheezes as he leaned up against the side of a brick building. Slowly he lumbered into the alleyway to the left of the building. Having to use the wall as support, his walk was slow. His breathing was long and labored, trying with all his might to catch his breath following a several well over 1,000 miles. Reaching a thick metal door, Speed slammed his fist against it several times. A moment later, the eye slot slides open with a thick clang. A pair of eyes peer through. "You're alone," the eyes said. "Yes," Speed wheezed pathetically. "We met some resistance, some Hulk-looking chick. And Naruto Uzumaki, I had to ditch when our ride got taken out. I managed to bring some of the haul." He raises the lone duffel bag up so the eyes can see. "It's not much, but it's something." "Something," the eyes say simply. Speed Demon heard the door's several heavy locks unlatch, the door swinging open to reveal Emil Blonsky on the other side. The man was dressed rather simply, with a Hawaiian button-up shirt and a black t-shirt underneath. He stows his handgun in the back of his pants waistbelt. Emil nodded his head to the side. "Get in." Speed stepped in, Emil closing the door behind him. Speed is escorted through the building, the man known as the Abomination leading him into a large wareroom. The man immediately takes stock of who else is present. Leaning up against a stack of crates is a person whose body was framed by the colors of orange, purple, blue, and green. He practically vibrated with barely contained energy. Their name was UFO, for men and women who were now one superpowered being. Next to what looked like some kind of working station stood a lean young man with slicked back blonde hair. The man looked like the average Austinite, minus the gladius and scutum strapped to his side and back. He was Tyrannus, the Roman sorcerer. And finally, his back to everyone, sat the leader himself. Sitting in front of several television screens, Samuel Stearns watched various news outlets reporting the botched robbery on the San Francisco freeway. The televisions are turned off, their screens black. Stearns turned in his chair, now facing Speed Demon. The man barely looked human, his skin tone was a dark, disgusting green and his skull engorged to a severely alarming degree. His fingers are interlocked, his jaw set. "The others are dead, if you weren't aware," he drawls. Speed paused at that. "What? Why?" Boomerang was about to let Ms. Walters and Mr. Uzumaki in on our whereabouts. Samuel says dispassionately, "It seemed prudent to nip that in the bud entirely. Sadly, it seemed likely the other members of your crew would be just as likely to talk as him. Which leads us to you, Speed Demon." "Me?" Speed questioned, his voice shaking. "I came back. I brought you as much of the score as I could." He threw the duffel bag at Samuel's feet. Samuel doesn't even look at the bag, his eyes remain on Speed. "That's a fraction of what I asked for. I wanted the entire contents of that truck. Not a single portion. 5% out of 100 is an embarrassing failure on your crew's part. And considering you're all that's left, that means the fault lays solely with you. Correct?" Speed Demon had nothing to say, only able to fidget as the entire room glared down on him. What do we do with him? UFO asked, its 4 voices overlapping simultaneously. Isn't it obvious? Emil questioned glibly. Looking towards the open doorway at the other end of the room, the man called out. Hey, soldier boy. We got someone for you. A figure steps out from the shadow doorway. His heavy footsteps echoed through the wareroom, his gait slow as he reached the group. Speed Demon's panic became apparent as the Winter Soldier reaches Samuel's side. His long hair is now reached just above his shoulders, the 100-year-old Hydra sleeper agent dressed in a dark blue hooded jacket and black running pants. The wareroom's fluorescent lighting glares off his prosthetic metal hand as it flexes apprehensively. Frowning at Emil, his eyes sunken in from an apparent lack of sleep, Barnes murmurs, I'm not killing him. Oh really? Emil challenges. Has S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Golden Boy assassin extraordinaire gone soft on us? 'Cause if you have, well then I gotta ask why you're here too. No one's killing anyone. Samuel snapped, giving Emil a hard look. I'm the reason you're out of that Alaskan cryosleep. Don't make me regret it. Emil put his hands up, relenting to the man's command. Speed Demon, relieved that he wasn't going to be killed, relaxed as he said, What's next then, boss? The leader sighed, his hands massaging his temples. Because of your blunder, I suppose we'll have to resort to a more drastic measure. Sounds fun. Tyrannus commented with a carefree smile. It's about time we all get to go out and play a little. Don't get too excited, Samuel chastised. Because of the soul accords, anything too extravagant will bring the Avengers down on us faster than any of you could say pneumon ultra microscopic silico-volcaniconiosis. I doubt anyone here could, Emil drawled. Tyrannus raised his hand. I could. Samuel waved his hand dismissively. That means what we'll do will have to be rather Loki. His eyes land on Barnes, a smile creeping up on his face. And I think I know just the thing. Barnes' hand clenched uncomfortably, his metal digits clinking against his palm.